Oh my gosh, you guys. I've been on the phone with track phone to figure out why a payment is pending when I thought my son's friend was paying for it. Turns out I'm paying for it, but I didn't know why it was pending. And then before that, first thing in the morning, because it's 5:22 here, so it's been 3.5 hours of weird chaos. And now I got one of the cats meowing and meowing at my door. And I don't even know why. Okay, that's enough. I already fed you. Okay, so I'm usually a little nicer. Let me see who this is. Yeah, no. I'm a little upset with Tulip because I made some toast and it popped up. And before I got it out to get on a plate and in my mouth, the cat was chomping on it. Like, I'm not kidding. And I feed them 2 cans of meat and a bunch of dry in the morning, and then they get to eat the rest about 3 hours later, and then 3 hours later more. I mean, and she's nibbling on my toast. I mean, we're talking licking and taking a whole corner out. So it's like in the toaster. This is the mama kitty. Anyway, let's see. So I found out that I can turn the camera on. Hi, you guys. I found out that somebody was trying to use my card in Pennsylvania, but apparently they weren't. I spent half an hour on the phone and I got what's called phished. PHISHED. Parker, you've slept all day. Good grief. All right. So, yeah. So, hello, everybody. So, I'm getting phished, and I kept saying to the guy, and he called from my bank, my actual, with the real number from my bank. And I didn't even know this. And I was very leery. And I said, why are you asking me for my card number? And he said, and he had that Indian sound kind of voice, and it was pure static. And I said, I can hardly hear you. 10 minutes into the conversation, I said, please slow down a little with the static. I can't understand you. Yeah, it was awful, you guys. And my daughter was out there to see and experience the whole thing. She saw my eyes well up with tears. I was really worried I was getting scammed. Then they asked me, I got a notification from, okay. Then they asked me my number, and I knew I had just seen on a Seattle news. I mean, this is how easy you can be played. Yeah, I'm gullible, but I'm not that gullible. But apparently I was. I didn't understand the ramifications of it. I saw on the Seattle news, which is 2 hours from me, that nobody should be asking you for your bank card information. So then I said, well, if you're my bank, then you have my card. And then he started telling me the last four of my card. So then I thought, right, I didn't think this was the person that stole my card or was using it in Pennsylvania, right? So then I'm thinking, oh, this is legitimate. He's got the last four digits. So then he asked for the rest of it. And I said, well, you've got my four digits there, then you know the rest, or something like that. Like, I kept trying not to fall for it. And he had an answer for everything. He told me, and like a dumbass, I believed it. I mean, people are going to laugh at this, but he said all cards have the last same four digits. And I believed it. Yeah, I believed it. Like, it's so dumb. Why would I believe that? The last four digits are the same. That's so dumb in hindsight. But he was so calculating, so calm, so soft-spoken, didn't miss a beat, didn't get slightly riled up. Well, like, yeah, you need to tell me this. So he not only tells me that somebody from eBay, okay, so he sets me up to get his assurance, or I mean, to feel reassured. He said that somebody in Pennsylvania was scamming me, or not scamming me, tried to use my card for $640. I said, on what? He said, eBay. And then he's like, did you use your card? And I said, when was this? He said, this morning. I said, no. Then he said, when was the last time you used your card? And like a dumbass, I told him about a week ago. And then he told me that the person also tried to take 100 and something off it. So I really thought it was legit because he's setting up this false narrative. And I mean, I'm the one that goes into my daughter and my son's room and says, look, when you get these texts that say hit on this, or your card, your phone's expiring and hit on this link, don't do it. You're probably about to be hacked. And what happened to me? I sat on the phone for 30 damn minutes. Now, he asked me the security code, which I gave it to him when I was feeling very, very comfortable, but yet I wasn't. Because as I'm going through this whole talk, my eyes were welling up, and then I was crying. My daughter looked at me and I said, well, I really don't want to tell you this, but, and so I told him my security code. The first question he asked is, what's the zip code in your state? Like a dumbass, I told him, what state is it? I said, Washington. Then he asked me the expiration date of my card. Like a dumbass, I told him. And then he goes into the card and then the security code. And I thought it was odd, but he kept saying, this is a new security thing that we have to do. And then listen to this. This is when I really started feeling like I was being played, but it was too late. And I mean, I must have said to him 5 different times, I don't mean to be rude, but why would security send me? Because this is what happened next. And I'm sharing all this because, I mean, you guys will think, oh, it'll never happen to me. They're very sly. And maybe it wouldn't, but he was doing the link thing. Okay, well, does your number end in blah, 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 right? And I was like, yes. So I thought that was legit. So then he sends me a thing for a notification on my text, just like my bank does, and tells me to read him a number. I mean, we're talking the whole 9 yards. So I do that. Then he says, this is what the catcher was. Oh yeah, my card is canceled. Listen to this. Then he sends on a text. He says, I'm going to send you he didn't use fake. I don't think he even said fictitious. I'm going to send you something that isn't real, and you're just going to say yes. Oh, he said it was a fictitious name. Maybe he did say fictitious. So I thought it was just going to be a name. Well, this thing comes in and it says, the amount was $1,500. Okay. And it said, I will authorize. This is how embarrassing it is. That's why I'm sharing it. I don't care if people think I'm a complete, utter dumbass. I don't. But it said, say yes to authorizing to a different 4 number, or to I think there were 4 different numbers, or it said 1,500 to this account, say yes, so we can see that the security is working. And then again, I said, this is what I said. This is another reason I was on the phone 30 minutes. So you can imagine how many questions I asked and how whatever, and I said, you mean to tell me that security now, they're sending these fake things and people are just supposed to be saying yes? And then yeah, Donna Clark, people are in danger. I just played some rock and roll because the fire is intense. I'm going to show some news. People had to literally jump out of their cars in the highway. It's really serious. But so is getting ripped off on your card when, yeah, I have a little money on there, but I don't have thousands, 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 and thousands, Anyway, like a dumbass, I said yes. So then he's got the whole thing and yes. And I said, why 1,500? I literally, and I was getting choked up and emotional. Tears were coming out. I was wiping my eyes, but I didn't want the guy to hear me crying. But my daughter was looking at me. In fact, she said, hang up, hang up. I said, no, this is the new security they do, whatever. So I said to the guy, kind of under my breath, and to my daughter, and I know he heard, I'm calling my bank right after this phone call. But there was no response from his end. He made it sound like, and there were voices in the background, but they were kind of muffled. I called my bank, and sure enough, nobody tried to take money off my card this morning, but this man did. 1,500 twice. Then he tried 1,000. Then he tried 990. And it's very disturbing and very upsetting. It's like my daughter, she was like, gosh, Mom, you were like fighting back the tears. I said, I was having tears. I said, I cannot believe this. So From this point on, nobody will ever ask you for your security code unless it's really like the bank, and I don't even think they will. Even the bank, they said, will only always bring up your last four numbers. And I knew this from the Seattle thing. But because he stayed on the phone with me and acted caring and security, so yeah. So I had to cut my card up and I'm getting a new one. Yeah, it's awful. Think about the older people, right? That I don't know. They try to mess with that. I'm not saying older or gullible, but they're a little more trusting and friendly and whatever. So from this point on, I ever get a phone call from my bank. And then this is the other thing. When I was all done, Shaylin said, go in and see if it's the number, right? Or if it's an 800 or something. And it was the actual number from my bank. But I still called up and I sat on the phone 25 minutes waiting for them to answer. Thank God. And thank God I have a good bank that checks for fraud. But yeah, he said, no, unfortunately, there's a lot of phishing going on. Yeah, phishing. I heard about it through the Seattle News just 3 days ago and thought, oh, it'll never happen to me. And it did. Okay, so what the hell? Los Angeles is burning up. It's the Palisades 5 hours ago. I don't know what it is now. It doesn't seem like they have very good control. You can literally see the mountains near Los Angeles on fire. I just found this out. I'm 2 states away from California, but I didn't turn the TV on. I've been on the phone dealing with my dang card and Parker's phone. And then I spoke to my mother. And let's get to the fire. While I'm looking up this news on the fire, yeah, the I spoke to my mom, and she's having tests done. They're doing biopsies. My mom's in the hospital at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, and has like kidney disease, basically, and cancer. So they're doing a biopsy from her fluid-filled cells to find out what kind of cancer it is. And she said she didn't hear back today. She sounded very weak. I said, Mom, you sound really weak and really, I think I said bad even. I didn't just say tired. I might have said tired to be nice. I wanted to say bad, and I think I said tired. And she said, yeah, I really am. She said, I'm not able to eat much. So she didn't even know if she was 70 or 80 pounds. This is how scary it is. So she was in her 90s, 90 pounds, 95. And then she was eating once they tweaked her, not tweaked, but changed a heart med or something. She was eating. Now she can't eat. So instead of just going, oh, Mom, and leaving it at that, I'm like, well, why? Is food gross at the hospital? Or she said, I can't keep anything down. She said the only thing she can keep down are those insures. Insures. I said, well, for the calories, couldn't they like whip you up a milkshake, maybe strawberry or something? And then she said, no, I'm getting enough vitamins and protein in my insures. So I started crying is what I did. I said, I don't mean to cry, Mom, but I'm really scared for you or something like that. And then she said, oh, don't cry. I'll be okay. I'm very comfortable. I'm in a really good hospital. And she said, Steve, her husband, is driving there and going to be there tonight. So he's only an hour away and he has to go home every day, each day, to take care of their pets. Anyway, I don't think I can have any kind of advertisements. So I'm going to mute this really quick.
had gone out to run an errand, and
oh, for God's sakes, you can't hear anything. Okay, I'm going to start it over. Just a minute
the fire
here.
began, and then they couldn't get back home. This is a live picture.
We overuse that phrase, this looks like a war zone, but that looks like a horror movie, right? I mean, when you think about that, some of those movies where the cars are abandoned and everybody has to get out quickly, that looks like that image right there.
Well, to paint a more clear picture, this is what I was referring to earlier, that LAFD said any abandoned cars, we're going to have to bulldoze your cars to clear access for the firefight. So at one point, they may have just been in a single file, and now they've been bulldozed to be pushed to the side. So all of these vehicles, and at last count, I mean, LAFD said in one spot was 30 vehicles. Clearly, there's a lot more. Given this live picture as a photographer, and thank you to whomever is behind the camera for taking us up this road and showing us the damage of this Audi, obviously, as we're seeing there, the damage from the bulldozer on the side. It looks like maybe a pet was in that vehicle as well. We've heard a lot about that today, too, where people have gone out and looks like some groceries.
Yeah,
in the back. They had gone out to run an errand, and then the fire began, and then they couldn't get back home, and their pet was back at home, and they couldn't get the pet. Looks like the lights are still on, perhaps there, or maybe that's just the glare that I'm seeing.
That's scary.
Car after car after car. It does look like Armageddon.
Yeah, and you feel for all of those residents, and man, that's just awful to see. But you understand, I guess, the need to get fire trucks up these roads and try to save people's lives, and ultimately you can replace a car, but you can't replace.
It's really horrific, Sherry. Hi, everyone.
Life or death fight. I mean, last night Adam Kruger was telling us the phrase that they were putting out. It was life-threatening fire, weather, fire conditions, and this is indeed what we're looking at. This is a life-threatening fire.
I had no idea this was on or happening
so far, Marla,
today.
We do not have any reports of any injuries or deaths because of this. Yeah, it looks like that is probably a bed for a dog or a cat. But, you know, it would not be shocking, given what we're looking at right now, if we found out that there was, you know, a situation like that based off of these conditions.
Oh, okay. And there's some more footage on Live Now Fox. Hi, everyone. Sherry and Mary Jane Doe and Rapper and Art Ghost Show and Donna Clark and Freeside and Keegan Gorham and Amanda Elizabeth and Daniel Berry Sports. Thanks everyone for being here. I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, it's really bad. Just a second, okay? Well, hi, Hunter. No, the music I played in the beginning of my video is called Vans in Japan. And I really like it. It's really pretty cool. But the songs are like 2 minutes long. And there's only 3 of them I found that had a really cool, catchy, different rock and roll beat instead of just some hardcore lay it in there that, I don't know, you know, other people might not enjoy as much. Hi, Teresa Mills. Hello. So, and I danced to a video 2 days ago, quite a darn bit. Yeah, I've seen you in here before, Hunter. Hunter. Okay, so hang on. I'm going to show you more footage. It's intense.
things out.
It is a critical moment for Southern California and the community of Palisades. We're bringing resources in from CAL FIRE, from Northern California, aggressively down there. They're mobilizing now and heading down there. We already have resources in place, but I'm seeing the devastation. I'm seeing people evacuating. I'm seeing congestion on the roadway. We always remind people to evacuate sooner than later. Get out early and try to avoid that congestion, avoid that, a little bit of chaos of getting people out. We want to, and our thoughts and our priorities is the people. We want to get them out as soon as possible and as safe as possible.
And as we're looking at some of these images, we've just been seeing homes go up in absolute flames. Can you sort of talk about the environment down there in Southern California, why they were talking about the wind speeds between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. tomorrow morning? It's going to be a critical time, and they're talking about how that will potentially cause this fire to spread, which is already at over 1,200 acres at this point. Can you talk about those conditions and why things have just been primed over the last few hours to really see this fire spread?
Yeah, definitely. We're going to expect more fire spread tonight and through the night hours with the wind activity continuing. We're seeing spot fires all throughout the community of Palisades, igniting new little fires, burning into the main fire, which is a big concern for us. As the wind continues on and the smoke layer comes down, we want to get our aviation and resources in there. And hopefully we don't get restricted with all the smoke layers and causing any restriction with our aviation. But we want to get our resources in there, and we've seen all this fire and devastation. The fuel load is ready to burn. We haven't had any good precipitation in Southern California in months. So this fuel, this area is ready to burn, and with these winds, it'll just make it increase that much faster.
Can somebody put
and
my
as you can see there on your screen, of course, that's our partners there at Fox 11 in LA. There are reporters also using this shot. But I want to focus here on some of these cars that have been moved out of the roadway. Some of them are charred, some aren't. Can you talk about the need for emergency response folks to be able to get into these areas to ensure that they're able to go through those canyons? Because so many people are wondering. Of course, it was told to us that bulldozers had to actually come in to clear those lanes. Talk about the effects of that and why it's so important to clear that area so firefighters are able to get in there.
Yeah, I've been in areas like this before where you have really narrow roads and minimal roadways to get to the areas we need to and get to these houses and protect these structures as soon as possible.
Parker, I'm propping my iPad and I will get you something.
Get in place to these streets and these homes to protect these homes.
Just a minute, I'm propping.
At the same time, it makes it a little bit more difficult to get in place. So it is needed. Sometimes we will have to use what we can, and the bulldozer was the need at this moment to open up forces in place to protect the people, and to protect the community, and protect the homes as well.
Let's talk about personnel as well. As we've already discussed, so many different departments are now pitching in and offering whatever support as possible. Governor Gavin Newsom talked about the fact that over the weekend, they'd actually set up for other departments to come down starting Saturday and Sunday, and we're in place ready to mobilize if anything happened. Can you talk about the behind-the-scenes coordination that goes into a large operation like this?
Yeah, definitely. We use our mutual aid system with our OES partners who bring in our local government partners and mobilize them all across the state wherever the fire need is. So we mobilize all resources working with our OES partners, and it's just a large mutual aid system that allows our local government partners to come to these fires and get dispatched in initial attack phase or a planning strike team phase to get them over here and assist us. All these firefighters right now that are working this fire now, hopefully we can get them off the line by tomorrow morning for rest and recovery and bring in a new set of resources in by tomorrow morning. But in incidents like this, sometimes that doesn't happen because all the resources aren't there yet. We still have resources mobilizing towards this area from the Southern California and also Northern California. So sometimes these firefighters are working 48 hours straight on this fire line to do what they can to stop this fire until there's relief is in place.
Jesse, I was going to ask you that next. As a firefighter, of course, you still have to eat. You still have to maybe find some semblance of sleep. But when you're out there and you're battling it, can you sort of walk us through what a day potentially looks like when a fire like this breaks out?
Yeah, it's a long day and a long night, and you don't realize the time that has passed. Your hunger pains, you don't even notice them. That you don't feel that hunger until things slow down. When the fire slows down, and that might be 48 hours from now. A lot of these guys have been out there since 10:30 when this fire started, and they're not going to see the end of it till maybe Wednesday night when resources come in and give them relief. So it's a long night, it's a hard night, but you really keep going. That adrenaline keeps you pushing, and you don't notice it until things start to slow down. And but a lot of times, luckily, we'll have some of our logistics teams, bring in burritos or some type of lunch, snacks and food just to keep us going. And also, all of our fire engines are stocked with food just in case, and waters and Gatorades to keep us moving for at least 48 hours.
It's good to know that so many of these folks are being taken care of in the moment when it's so critical to keep the lives of so many Californians safe as well. All right, I want to ask you about the LA. They've now declared a state of emergency. When that occurs, how does that affect your resources? Obviously, the ability for you all to get more resources increases. Is that why it's so important?
Yes, it's very important, and more for the reimbursement part of reimbursing California when this is said and done. Our federal management assistant grant assists us with federal funds to help reimburse the recovery costs of everything that's been here in California. So mainly, it's not going to affect us with resources out the gate, but it could affect, help us with resources out of state if we get to that point. But for now, we're still using a lot of in-state resources throughout the Southern California area, and a lot of CAL FIRE resources all throughout the state are coming in to assist on this fire. But these federal funds will help assist us with reimbursement costs in the end.
Certainly something that's going to be important in the coming days. Also just showing you some more powerful images that we have there from our partners there at Fox 11 in LA. As you can see, this woman is walking with a suitcase, probably many of her belongings, just trying to get out of harm's way. They're going to be interviewing her. We're going to step away from this shot, and hopefully we'll be able to hear a little bit more about what's happening there as well. But before I let you go, Jesse, I have to ask you, of course, there has now been early reporting that Pacific Palisades High School may also be burning in this fire. In that case, when a structure like a high school burns, they're obviously going to have to take away some of those operations and classes, and all of that kind of affects the school year. How long does that potentially be affected? Have you seen any other fires where major structures like a high school or maybe even a hospital in the area have been burned or affected by these fires?
Yeah, definitely. I've been in the business for a long time and seen a lot of destructive fires like this in my career. And usually when hospitals catch fire or high schools catch fire, the community has to resource out to another high school. Like in particular in Chico, Northern California, they had to go down to Chico from that area up there where that high school burned, and utilize other hospitals in the area and get evacuations out. And that's the worst part of it, is evacuating the hospital. We never want to do that, but sometimes it's necessary when you're going to get people out. So they'll use a lot of ambulances to transport people from this burning hospital to another one and get people out as soon as possible. But it's very destructive, and it's difficult to manage because that high school is affected, and then they can no longer have school there. So usually schools will shut down for a couple weeks until they can figure out what they're going to do next, and maybe do some in-home schooling or online or something like that. But it is a horrible time to have high schools and hospitals catch fire as well.
It certainly is. And Jesse, as I'm going to let you go after this question, I have to ask you, do you see an end to this fire? Do you know potentially how long we may see it burn? And what are these conditions now making it prime for other fires in the vicinity to break out as well?
Yes, definitely. That's one of our biggest concerns, is other new fires igniting and starting in Southern California. These winds are forecasted to go through Thursday, according to the National Weather Service, with the strongest effect being tonight through the night hours. So our concern is new fires throughout Southern California, and being prepared for that and have staffing and resources available for those. But yeah, this fire will burn until the wind stops or slows down through Thursday for sure. This fire is being pushed by the winds, and it's making spotting and creating this fire to move rapidly with the wind. So once the winds slow down or come to a stop, we'll see this fire activity slow down, and that will allow us, then the firefighters, to get more suppression efforts in and more activity to stop this fire.
Jesse, any parting thoughts before I let you go?
I just want to remind the public to be safe and be prepared, and have an evacuation plan and have a go bag ready to go. And for more information, visit us at fire.ca.gov.
We definitely appreciate you for joining us here on Live Now from Fox this afternoon/evening, giving us idea of just how much those firefighters are now dealing with as they try to make this area safe again for those residents. We appreciate you for joining us.
Thank you.
What's happening? Oh, it ended? Oops, what am I doing? Okay, is this a new one? This is a new one. Hopefully it didn't play a...
Okay, my name is Captain Eric
commercial.
Scott, the lead public information officer for the Palisades fire. On behalf of everyone behind me, thank you for being here. Thank you for educating the public through your
Grabbing
message.
my son
So
something to
this is all
eat.
for the Palisades fire, approximately 1,200 acres. And to go into all the specifics, we have a list of 8 individuals that will speak for you today. After those 8 individuals, we'll have Spanish, and then we'll have follow-up questions. After that, we'll have one-on-one interviews and let you know when the next press conference will be. So we ask at this time, please silence your cell phones, turn down your radios, keep your sidebar conversations off to the side. But to begin with, we'd like to call up the fire chief of the Los Angeles City Fire Department, Kristen Crowley.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'll be giving you a brief on what your LAFD has done up to this point. So at 10:30 this morning, a brush fire was reported at 1190 North Piedra Miranda Drive in our local fire station here right behind us at Fire Station 23. Los Angeles is currently experiencing an extreme fire weather condition with red flag alert. At the time of the fire, the relative humidity was 12 and the winds were approximately 25 miles an hour with gusts up to 50 miles per hour. Based on the red flag weather, your LAFD pre-deployed additional resources, made public awareness notifications, and issued parking restrictions in high hazard fire areas to ensure that the means of access and egress of our local fire stations and apparatus could move up and in around the area. First LAFD resources reported initially a 10-acre fire with 40-mile-per-hour winds and alignment heading towards the west or towards the ocean.
Hi, Glitters and Gold and
The
Sean B.
LAFD then requested all resources, including strike teams and aircraft from assisting agencies. We then went into an aggressive attack and focused our efforts on fire life safety operations, beginning with evacuations. Currently, the fire is at 1,261 acres and growing based on aerial reconnaissance. The fire is being fueled by a combination of strong winds and surrounding topography, which is making it extremely challenging for our personnel that are assigned to this incident. We currently have over 250 LAFD firefighters on scene, including 46 engines, 3 trucks, 5 helicopters, 4 brush patrols, 2 water tenders, 6 paramedic ambulances, 1 fast response vehicle, 1 advanced nurse practitioner unit, 2 bulldozers, 10 chief officers, fire investigators, and safety officers. Additionally, we're so grateful for the hundreds of law enforcement officers, partner agencies, first responders, and public work members that are engaged actively in this operation. PCH is closed from Lincoln Tunnel to Topanga Boulevard. Evacuation orders are in place for approximately 30,000 residents, including the Highlands area. North of PCH, south of Topanga Canyon Boulevard, east of Tuna Canyon Road, west of Seabreeze Drive and Surfside Drive. Our evacuation center is the Westwood Recreation Center located at 1350 South Sepulveda Boulevard in LA. The population threatened is approximately 25,748. Households threatened is approximately 10,367. Structures threatened are approximately 13,208. At this point, we feel very blessed at this point that there's no injuries that are reported. We do have reports of multiple structures that are damaged. Since the beginning of this fire, I've been in constant communication with Mayor Bass, as well as other city leadership, who's working very, very closely. As you can see, this entire entity behind me, we're working seamlessly and closely to ensure that we are protecting lives and property first. So with that, we'll go ahead and introduce the next speaker.
Thank you, Chief Crowley. The next speaker will be the Los Angeles County Fire Chief Maroney.
So good afternoon. My name is Anthony Maroney. I'm the County of Los Angeles Fire Department Chief. Shortly after the start of the Palisades fire, LA County Fire did assist the City of Los Angeles with a first alarm brush assignment. At 11:30 hours this morning, our LA County Fire Department went into unified command with the City of Los Angeles, and at 12:30, our CAL FIRE partners from the state went into unified command with not only LA City Fire, LA County Fire, and LAPD. Currently, LA County Fire is providing aerial resources to fight this brush fire, including our Firehawk helicopters, our CH-47, part of our nighttime QRF resource that we have, in addition to our CL-415 Super Scoopers. We also have 3 engine strike teams assigned and almost 100 LA County Fire personnel. I want to let all of the viewers and listeners know that we are not out of danger. The National Weather Service has predicted that the winds are going to pick up and get worse. We're going to have the most significant wind event between 10 p.m. this evening and 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. So it's incumbent that everybody have a wildfire action plan for their home. If they live in a brush-covered area, please visit the LA County Fire Department website for Ready, Set, Go information. So that's fire.laccounty.gov/RSG. And for the most up-to-date incident information and emergency preparedness information, go to laccounty.gov/emergency. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. During emergencies, always by our side is our friends from law enforcement. So we'd like to invite LAPD Chief of Police Jim McDonald.
Thank you very much. We are here in a support role to our fire partners. Just a quick rundown. We have over 100 officers here deployed.
Look how smoky that is on the
60
right.
ready to be deployed once a mission is given to them.
Can't even see.
So far, the major job for our people have been evacuation, traffic control, allowing ingress and egress to emergency vehicles, and those can be helpful. I would have an ask that if you would, please do everything you can to open up the streets so we can get the resources we need to be able to deal with this emergency. Please take this wind emergency very seriously. As you heard from the speakers before me, this is something that is going to get worse throughout the night. So we all have to look out for each other. Areas of evacuation so far, about 30,000 people have been evacuated from a total of 10,000 households or 15,000 structures, to include businesses and other buildings so far, with no injury. So we're very thankful for that. But we truly ask for all assistance that we can get in making this as smooth as we possibly can. Thank you.
Smooth.
Thank you, Chief McDonald. I would also like to call up LA County Supervisor Lindsay Horvath, please.
Thank you. My deepest thanks to the first responders who are working tirelessly to fight this Palisades fire. Moments ago, Chair Barger signed LA County's emergency proclamation for this fire, for the severe wind event and all of the fires related to it. As the National Weather Service predicted, This is a life-threatening situation. To our Palisades and Topanga community under evacuation order, please leave. Ensure your home is unlocked, the power is off, and making sure first responders can easily access the structure. This is essential to keeping you safe and to allowing fire and first responder personnel to do their work. For our unincorporated communities in Santa Monica Mountains, including Sunset Mesa, Topanga Canyon, and Malibu, all under evacuation order and evacuation warning. Please ensure you are checking emergency.lacounty.gov and heeding all door-to-door information from our LA County Sheriff and Fire Departments. Thanks to our partners at the Topanga Coalition for Emergency Preparedness, who work year-round to practice evacuation drills and emergency preparedness, and they're working tirelessly right now to ensure information is shared across Topanga.
Really scary.
For those
Look how much
livestock,
smoke.
the evacuation location is Pierce College. For those needing small animal evacuation location, the Agora Animal Shelter is available to you.
This is in
Thank you
LA.
to Governor Newsom for your quick support.
It's only been
and
on maybe
coordination.
half an hour.
Thanks to
Been
Mayor
going
Bass,
all day.
Councilmember Park,
I
and
didn't
all of the
even know
council members in the
Sunflower.
city, and all of our partners,
In
city,
Los
county,
Angeles.
and state, unified and working together to keep people safe and address this
They
fire.
don't even have the
county
fire
and city
under
of Los
control
Angeles
yet
have a lot of experience in unified
because of the
command.
wind.
This emergency is no different. We're dedicating every resource we can to urgently contain this fire. I want to extend my gratitude to the Los Angeles County Fire Department, the Sheriff's Department,
Glitters.
the Office of Emergency Management, and all of our county partners. I know LAUSD officials also wanted to be with us, but given the conditions, that was challenging. A few school updates. Topanga Elementary at Woodland Hills Academy will be relocated all week. Palisades and Marquez Elementaries will be relocated at Brentwood Science Magnet for tomorrow. Paul Revere Middle School will be relocated at University High tomorrow. Pali High School is not in session this entire week, and Canyon Elementary will be relocated at a location to be determined. To those affected by the Palisades fire, I know today is terrifying and it is painful. Please know that you are not alone. The County of Los Angeles and all of our partners are here together to stand with you and be in support of you. Thank you again to everyone who is contributing resources to this incident. Your partnership is appreciated and it is essential to keeping people safe. Thank you very much.
People had to jump out of their cars.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Sunflower.
Next, we'd like to bring up Los Angeles City Council President Marquis Harris-Dawson.
Thank you so much. I just want everybody to know that since this morning, about 7 a.m., I've been in direct communication with Mayor Bass, who's on her way home from a diplomatic mission on behalf of the United States government. She will be here within hours. Also, we want everybody to know that the city is well prepared and has a tremendous emergency management infrastructure who has been on the case since 6 this morning at the beginning of this wind event. I'm proud to say that we have some of the best men and women anywhere in our fire department, our police department, as well as their partners across the state and across the county. I am also want everybody to know that as acting mayor and president of the LA City Council, along with the county, and we'll hear from the governor later, the city of LA is declaring a state of emergency through this wind event, and we'll have all resources on deck. And our ask, our personal ask, and we'll hear from the council member from this district, but if you can stay off of our roads, please do so to allow emergency vehicles to go across the city. And also remember, we'll continue to drive this home. The worst and most severe part of this wind event is yet to come. So if you're around the city and you have been spared, be thankful, but also be on guard. Bring your lawn furniture in. And again, help us by staying off the roads. And I will ask the council member from this district who's been on the street since early this morning, making sure the neighborhoods have the information that they need and resources that they need to come to the podium. Our
really
Councilwoman Tracy Park.
Boy, I'm filming it. I didn't even know it was going on today. I've been on the phone all day.
I want to begin by thanking all of our public safety partners. LA City Fire has over 250 firefighters on the front lines in the hillsides right now, actively fighting this fire, supported by more than 100 firefighters from LA County Fire, as well as additional resources from Orange County, Ventura County, CAL FIRE, and neighboring cities, including Arcadia and Santa Monica.
It's actually on the biggest.
Our partners in law enforcement for their terrific coordinated response with us today. LAPD, LA County Sheriff's Department, CHP is here, as well as our park rangers.
Did you look it up?
Obviously, the scope and scale of today's fire here in the Palisades has been terrifying. We are so incredibly grateful for the swift response. And to my constituents here in the Pacific Palisades, I want to reiterate, this is not a drill. This is an actual public safety emergency. Areas west of Mandeville Canyon and north of Sunset have been ordered for evacuation, so please make sure that you are packed and ready to go and complying with all directives being given to you by law enforcement and our partners at the fire.
This is reminding me of Hawaii
LA
a little
City
bit.
is activating emergency shelter
The Hawaiian
at
fire.
Westwood Recreation Center. People in the Palisades who have been displaced by today's events are invited to go there. We are working with animal services to receive and care for pets that are being displaced as well. And as additional resources come online, we'll be providing those updates for you. Local residents should follow along for additional information and updates through official city channels, as well as LAPD, LAFD, and LA County updates, as this is a dynamic situation. This is a fast-moving and growing fire at over 1,200 acres at this point. And with the predicted wind patterns and continued weather event, we expect the situation to continue through the evening. It may take fire a couple of days to get the situation under control. It may be some time until people are allowed to return to their homes and residences. Please bear with us through this period as our public safety partners work hard to protect lives and property and ensure that this area is safe before people return. In the meantime, if anyone needs additional assistance, I would welcome them to reach out to me and my team. All of our contact information is at cd11.lacity.gov. Thank you to my friends and constituents, and thank you to all of our partners, including Governor Newsom, for being here with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. We'd like to now ask Council Member John Lee to please speak.
Yeah, just rest, take it
easy. I just want to thank all the firefighters who are on the first responders that are fighting this fire right now. Also, a big thank you to all the organizations throughout the city, county, and state that are assisting our firefighters in what they need to do today. As chair of the Public Safety Committee, it's my job to monitor situations all throughout the city of Los Angeles. And the most important information that I can share with you today is to all of our residents. As soon as we get any new information, we are trying to disseminate that as quickly as possible. It's important that you listen to that information. As someone who represents a district that is commonly affected by fires, one of the issues is we ask our residents to do is, if you're asked to evacuate, if you're asked to stay outdoors, whatever it is that we're asking you, if you're in one of those affected areas, that you don't create additional problems for our firefighters, so our firefighters can focus on what they're supposed to do.
By staying too darn late.
Thank you all for being here.
So many people do that. Well, I'm just going to hose it down, keep my house safe.
We'd like to ask the Governor, Gavin Newsom.
It was the wind.
Everybody, hell of a way to start a new year.
Again, let me add my voice, the voice of so many others, and extending deep appreciation to the men and women in uniform across jurisdictions. I want to thank, in particular, Chief Crowley and Chief Maroney for
the wind and something else. I don't know.
Sheriff's Office,
all of our local law enforcement agencies that work hand in glove. There is simply no better mutual aid system anywhere in the United States of America. And you're seeing it now at scale once again here in Southern California. I say once again because we were here not too long ago, the Franklin fire, a few weeks prior to that, the Mountain fire, November, December, now January. There's no fire season, it's fire year, it's year round. And it's incredibly important that we heed the warnings, the calls, that we're not out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination. You may feel at home that you're fine down in Riverside County, San Bernardino County, down in Ventura County, other parts of the state, but there's a reason we pre-positioned hundreds of assets and personnel on Sunday.
High hopes, Echo. This is terrifying.
110 engines specifically were sent down, 45 by CAL FIRE, 65 through our mutual aid system through the Office of Emergency Services, water tenders down here, 7 new helicopters we brought from Northern California down to Southern California. We just brought our C-130 down from Northern California. It already just had its first drop. By no stretch of the imagination are we out of the woods. You heard a chief say 10 p.m. tonight to 5 a.m. tomorrow will be peak winds. And having just quite literally an hour or so ago gone up the canyon and saw firsthand the impact of these swirling winds and the embers and the number of structures that are destroyed, not a few, many structures already destroyed, and the fact that people were still not evacuated, still did not heed the warning, or just coming down the canyon, is a reminder of how serious this moment is and how important it is you listen to these evacuation orders.
And do them.
We've all been to memorials. I've never been to a memorial for a building, but for family members and loved ones. I know you cannot say this enough. It's foundational. One other thing I want to say, because you can't say it enough, is expression of gratitude. The President of the United States happens to be in town. It didn't take more than a text message to get the FMAG approved, which means we're getting reimbursed for the vast majority of these costs. No politics, no hand-wringing, kissing of the feet. The President of the United States said, yes, what else do you need? Emergency proclamations being drafted as we speak. And I just want to thank the President because that's something I don't take for granted and something we should not take for granted at this moment in American history. So thank you, President Biden, as well. Final point. We encourage you. You heard all those websites. I don't want to burden you with any more except one. Fire.ca.gov. And why do I say that? Nothing like it in the countries, nothing like that we've seen in any jurisdiction around the world. 3D maps and live cams on fire.ca.gov. It also will show you the evacuation orders. I encourage people to take a look at that site for information. And of course, ready.ca.org to make sure that you're prepared as we work through yet another extraordinary month in this fire year, perpetual fire year here in the state of California. Thank you again to all of the folks behind me and the outstanding leadership of all the elected officials as well. And forgive me, one point, I'd be remiss. Thank you to Mayor Bass, who was on the phone immediately this morning, making sure even in absentia that she's here organizing everything she can to make sure we're successful as well.
You go, Gavin.
Thank you, Governor. Appreciate that. We'd like to open this up now for Spanish, and then we'll go to questions. So we'd like to have Public Information Officer for LAFD, David Ortiz.
Think of all the celebrities live along the water.
Comenzó un incendio en la comunidad de Pacific Palisades en el municipio de Los Ángeles. Este incendio rápidamente.
As you can see here, we've been listening to this live press conference out of Los Angeles as they're now giving an update on that Pacific Palisades fire. This portion of the news conference is going to be in Spanish. So in that case, let's check back in with our partners there at Fox 11 there in LA as they're continuing to talk. Let's see if they're talking over this in English with those updates there for the fire.
news, Marla, is that so far no injuries, but interesting how Governor Newsom mentioned the fact that he saw multiple structures burn. We don't have any actual number yet, but he made it seem like it wasn't just a few that are burning. And we are getting some indication from our reporter, Christy Fajardo, on the ground that Palisades High School may be burning. We're trying to get more details on that. Hopefully get to her soon.
Flipping high school?
But that is a dangerous situation.
30,000 residents under evacuation, 25,000 plus households currently remain threatened. Best news is no injuries to speak of. Again, it's early in the investigation and in this firefight, so that could very well change. You mentioned that Pacific Palisades High School is currently on fire. The Getty Villa was also threatened earlier, but I'm seeing images and being told that the fire, those flames did make its way around the Getty Villa. So that at this point has been preserved. On the ground, we also have Chelsea Edwards joining our coverage now. If Chelsea is available, there you are. You're in the Highlands area. They talked about this area being vulnerable and obviously under evacuation zone.
Now, we do have some good news to report in that vein. So this is the area. Our thanks to our partners there at Fox LA. We'll check back in with their coverage in just a second. But now stepping back up to the microphone, we see it is Governor Gavin Newsom. He looks like he's answering some questions about the fire. Let's listen in.
So, and I was on the ground. People got that notification and they could not get out. They were blocked.
No, I will leave that to the folks that are organizing. Maybe Chief.
People were blocked in the street.
Sure. So the specific question was in the Palisades area or the Highland area, you said, where it was challenging for the constituents to evacuate. We did push out information for people to evacuate. Now, the lean forward posture, and I want to talk about that first and foremost, was communicating the potential threat of what was coming. That information was out. It was out early in regard to everybody be ready, ready, set, and go. When that go order came out, at that point, that is that very important point where the public can and should heed that warning and start to evacuate. Now we know there's limited access and egress in certain areas within the hills right behind me. So with that, that's what we believe did happen. People did evacuate. It was slow to evacuate. What I have been briefed on is that the evacuations were slow, but they did occur, and we will follow up on that if there's anything better in the future that we can communicate to the constituents and continue to train to that, because the evacuation order, we can never do it early enough. So with that, we want to continue to work with the community, ensure that when that evacuation order happens, that they can evacuate in a timely manner. But we understand what you're saying. Sure.
You mentioned the current administration and not all this stuff, but what's your message to the incoming administration about what you just saw here today, given that that's going to be part of, we know that there's city collaboration, state and federal collaboration.
Well, we're all in this together. None of us are asking for respective political identities around here. Everybody's rowing in the same direction because everyone gives a damn. They're here for each other, and that's the spirit that defines the best of this state, this country. No one here is playing politics. We have an American president and Joe Biden that recognizes his responsibility in times of emergency. When Americans are in need, he steps up, he steps in, not qualified by a particular request or an expectation. And so, again, I say what I said because I at the moment, I don't take that for granted, candidly, like I have been the last few years. It's rather precious. And my message to the incoming administration, and I'm not here to play any politics, is please don't play any politics. There's a time and place for that. And at this moment where your question only reinforces the moments, the precious moments that we have to evacuate, we don't have time for any of that mishigash.
Mishigash. Yeah, unlike Trump, who threw a thing of paper towels to someone in Haiti during their catastrophe. A joke.
You're saying they were wondering as well why. I know you guys are probably doing everything you can to get as many aircraft, but to drop more water, that's their concern.
So your question's in reference to the increase
The plan in place
severity
with
of
the
wind
worst
and
winds yet to
resources?
come, and then the aircraft.
Okay.
Yeah, was your question regarding nighttime aircraft operations?
Yeah, just obviously the worst is yet to come at about 10 p.m. and overnight.
Right. So the plan is they're developing a plan for nighttime air operations. It's going to be a combination of LA City fire units, LA County fire units, state fire units, and that quick reaction force of the CH-47s that drop retardant at night. We are going to take advantage of the lower temperatures at night, but with increased wind speed, aerial firefighting becomes more dangerous. There is a cutoff mile per hour wind at which we will not operate at night. Flying during the night is more dangerous than flying during the day. We want to make sure that we don't get anybody killed, but we do want to fly both day and night. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens. I mean, it's going to be interesting. If the winds are going to get worse right now, it's going to be very difficult for our aerial assets to actually make a difference for the folks on the ground.
What's the cutoff?
It could be 30 to 40 miles an hour sustained. You know, we do have history of operating with high gusts, but it really isn't effective because as the water exits the bottom of the drop tank, it just gets carried away by the wind and never reaches the ground. So there really is no point to putting people at risk if that firefight isn't making a difference.
Thank you. Getting hot thinking about the darn fire.
Was your answer question?
Yeah, I mean, this is only one fire. We've got, 2 more days of this too. I mean, I don't know how many resources, more people you're able to,
well, that's the beauty of automatic and mutual aid. So there's automatic aid agreements between all of these agencies here. They brought their additional boots on the ground. And as the governor mentioned, we have state mutual aid. So CAL FIRE's come in. We'll get the appropriate quantity and type of resources to mitigate this emergency. And it's an opportunity of neighbor helping neighbor. And we will do the same thing in Northern California when they need it. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, people's cars got totaled from the
Sure. So questions about abandoned cars. That's a good question that has come up. Law enforcement assists us heavily with evacuation, but please remember it's an active incident. We don't have the answers to all of these questions. We will certainly look at that. That's very important. I don't know if police felt like they wanted to make a mention to evacuations. Okay.
Yeah, just on that question of evacuations, vehicles left in the roadway. If you have to leave a vehicle on the roadway, get it as far off the road as you can so that emergency vehicles can't get by. The gist of moving them with bulldozers was an emergency situation. You got to get those fire resources through, and they do what they have to do to be able to facilitate that. So we're asking really for the cooperation and think a couple of steps ahead. It's not just your vehicle there, but then others line up behind you as well as they see what you're doing. And so I can't stress enough, please follow the evacuation orders. Do your best to be able to get out to safety. Bring the equipment you will need for the next couple of days with you because, as you've heard over and over again, this is not going to end very quickly. Thank you.
If I could just expand a little bit. On Saturday, state started to convene.
Oh, for God's sakes, you guys. Here. More like this. Allow. No. There we go.
Respective leadership across the state of California at the Office of Emergency Services. We started to pre-position early evening on Sunday in 6 or 7 counties here in Southern California, quite literally moved assets from Northern California into Southern California. Just as an example, moments ago, we had a chance to meet a crew from Santa Cruz and from Santa Clara County that just were deployed up the mountain. Those resources remain pre-positioned currently in other counties in anticipation of the concerns you just expressed.
Look at that.
We are anticipating.
Hi, AK-47.
But we're anticipating other fires happening concurrently. And that's exactly the previous experience we've had with these kinds of wind events. And that's why we continue to provide and supplement those resources from all across Northern California in particular. One final thing, because I think it's important. My phone lights up all the time, including this morning, about people saying, well, where are all the planes? You said you put all these assets. I want to see them. It was important what the Chief just said. We could be up there all day making people feel good, but we're not doing any good because that retardant flies all over the place. And so it's not that the planes themselves can't handle the turbulence and the wind shears. It's that simply you're not suppressing anything. And so it is a point, I know, of frustration, but then it also reinforces the preciousness of the hand crews and the men and women that are on the ground holding the line, that are up there as we speak. And that's also part of the specialty units that are part of these larger operations. We have an incident command team that quite literally is organized here in real time, and we're gaming out the next few days with the benefit of something we haven't had in the past, new technology, and other AI-enabled technology that allows us predictive capacity in a way we've never had in the past, which is also aiding our efforts to not just prevent, in some cases, as it relates to early detection, but also prepare to suppress in subsequent incidences.
Yes, sir. It's been moving in a southwest direction towards Getty, which is moving towards the Los Angeles County Fire Department's jurisdiction. It did begin in the city, and that's the Unified Command. Good. Not that we're aware of at this point. So that is part of the process. They are having evacuation groups that are looking at that, but we're not aware of any individuals unaccounted for. We did receive multiple 911 calls for a particular address. We did send resources in to rescue people.
Good grief, you guys.
Okay,
Look
so
at
what
that.
are we telling the people south of the fire? Yeah. You want me to take that or somebody else? Okay.
Thank you for asking that question. Our question was, what are we communicating to individuals that are south of the incident? I think it's really, really important for the entire public to understand, as you can see, how dynamic these winds are and how quickly they can change on a dime. So you may think, okay, I'm safe, but the key is the communication, listen for those evacuation orders and warnings, and also be super hyper diligent in regard to what could happen. If an individual within the community wants to lean forward and to say, I'm not going to risk anything, I'm just going to go to a different area where it may be safer. Just know from the south, and with the winds as unpredictable as they are, there's very, very much at risk. So we want people to be very cognizant of that, make good decisions, make sure they can understand real-time information, and we will communicate that and articulate that very clearly. But this is very, very, very dynamic. And you can just, by standing here, seeing us with the wind gusts and with the predictability of this wind's going to get worse tonight. So we want people to lean forward, ready, set, go, and be ready. Thank you.
The fire could go all the way south and quickly turn north.
We're going to go ahead and conclude the press conference at this point. We'll let you know if we have another press conference tonight. That's not necessarily likely. There will be PIOs available here for additional questions. Tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., we do anticipate
Sorry
to have
about
another
your
joint
doggy
press conference.
AK-47.
Thank you all for sharing this important information.
Glad you got a new one. Oh, my goodness gracious. This is really something. Okay, I want to see if I can find some more dynamic footage. This is my All right, I'm going to read this. Pacific Palisades fire explodes to nearly 3,000 acres as thousands of residents flee. Homes are lost. They may not know at this point what caused it. I'm really not sure, but it says smoke from the Palisades fire rises over a ridge line. A fire was burning out of control Tuesday in Pacific Palisades, destroying homes and forcing residents to abandon their vehicles and flee amid a potentially life-threatening and destructive windstorm. Wide swaths of the Palisades, Topanga, and Malibu were under an evacuation order by the afternoon. As residents fought traffic jams and heavy smoke trying to escape the nearby flames, the Palisades fire broke out around 10:30 a.m. near Piedra Morada Drive and was pushed by intense wind gusts that officials had warned could fuel any spark into a fast-moving and erratic wildfire. The fire had blackened more than 2,900 acres by 6:30 p.m. as it continued to charge southwest. The grounds around the Getty Villa caught fire, as did the campus of Palisades Charter High School. It's reminding me, not quite as bad though. Okay, so yeah, I saw your comments, AK-47. But I'm not going to do a link because I don't have time. I'm covering this fire, and then I need to read some of my book, Drinking a Love Story. Tomorrow, I haven't seen my ex in 2 years. She needs seriously help, so of course I'm going to do everything I can, says AK-47. How do you be with somebody for almost 20 years, not being married and don't see each other, but on here, on, like, off and on, and now she's going to show up and live with you again? Well, if you want her to live with you, then it'll be a positive thing, but make sure you have some boundaries in place, right? No, I know. You don't have to apologize. I'm just trying to see what I can find on here, because I didn't even know about this because I was on the gosh darn phone with being fished out of $1,500, or they were trying anyway, out of my bank. Oh my gosh, look at this guy. It says a man retreats from the Palisades fire in Pacific Palisades. He's an older man. Look at that. He's older. Beard, obviously waited a little too long, but I sure hope he's okay. Okay, so the Palisades fire has spread to the grounds of Palisades Charter High School. The baseball field is on fire, said Allison Holdorf Polhill, senior advisor to school board member Nick Melvoin. Neighbors have sent me photos of the baseball field on fire and the tennis courts. classroom bungalows may be on fire, but that is not confirmed. The fire department deployed over 90 minutes ago in an attempt to save the structures. Palisades High School is an independent charter school that operates on a campus owned by LA Unified. It is not in session this week. Oh, thank goodness. Although there were staff members and student athletes at the school this morning. All were quickly evacuated as reports of the fire emerged. They began their second semester on Monday. The structures across the street from the campus were in flames. Gee whiz. Oh, this is the Getty Villa Museum grounds. Okay. I've been to California. Obviously, it's not on fire there, but it sure is pretty, isn't it? I've been to parts of California. I've been to LA. I've been to Hollywood. I've been to Balboa, California. I've been to Huntington Beach. And I've been to, I can't even think where else. Palm Springs. But this was years ago. So this is what it says about this Getty Villa, which is in Malibu. That's a picture of it in 2009. Amid the devastating and fast-moving fire in Pacific Palisades, the grounds of the Getty Villa have caught fire. Oh, it's a museum. The museum confirmed Tuesday. Fire officials said that trees and brush were ablaze and that flames were approaching structures. Okay, now, at that time, it had been spared by the fire, but this was written 90 minutes ago. A video on the social media platform X showed the flames approaching the Villa de Leon, a historic home near the museum's driveway entrance on Pacific Coast Highway. Fortunately, Getty had made extensive efforts to clear brush from the surrounding area as part of its fire mitigation efforts throughout the year. Some trees and vegetation on the site have burned, but the staff and the collection remain safe. Not anymore. Yeah, like Gavin Newsom said, hell of a way to start the new year. So because of these winds, okay, so I'm going to talk about the winds a little bit. Palisades fire at 2 hours ago. The fire was at 1,261 acres. And I'm in Washington State, so this should be, legitimate time. The Palisades fire, maybe I can move that. Not that people, really, really want to necessarily see me, but okay. Hello. Hello, Lolsey. Hi. Oh, okay. I didn't know. Okay, checking back. Okay, so The Palisades fire, this is 2 hours ago, has scorched 1,261 acres and is continuing to grow as of 3:30 p.m. Okay, it's now 6:47. On Tuesday, with even stronger winds expected overnight, wind gusts of 50 to 70 miles per hour have been recorded in Los Angeles over the course of the day. And gusts are expected to peak between 10 p.m. Tuesday and then 5 a.m. We already heard that. That's what the National Weather Service says. I know how fast 50-mile-an-hour winds are because we have them here in this town. And instead of just branches being thrown down on the boardwalk nearby here, I literally took a picture and put it in, was I coming back from the store? This was before I ever got rides and was constantly walking to the store. I think I had my baby carrier pusher thing. And because it was a log, and I'm not making this up, it was this wide. It wasn't, a stick. It wasn't this. It was this wide and about this long. Flew off the trees. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I had been walking down the boardwalk or anyone else at that time, they could have been killed because there's all these trees and branches that are bending over the boardwalk. Okay, so the fire is being fueled by a combination of strong winds and surrounding topography, which is making it extremely challenging for personnel that are assigned to this incident. Okay, so I'm repeating, so far around 30,000 residents have been evacuated from 10,000 households with no injuries reported. I guarantee you, because there are people, I saw them a couple of weeks ago along the Malibu fire where people don't leave in time. And one of them was Dick Van Dyke. I think he's 100 years old now. I believe I read that. And to get away from the smoke, he was crawling on all fours. That the actor, Dick Van Dyke, right? From Mary Tyler Moore's show or the Dick Van Dyke Show, whatever. And the neighbors saved him, grabbed him, helped him. He could hardly walk. Now, I'm not trying to blame him or anything, but just how do you, stay around so long? And then other people that were really challenged that day was Mark Hamill from, Star Wars thing from the 80s. He looks just the same, just older. And then a couple other women, and I can't remember their names. So I'm hearing fire trucks, not police, fire trucks. You probably don't hear them out there. Okay, within a few minutes, there were multiple fires. Okay, so this apparently, Darren Hurwitz said what appeared to start as a small brush fire. Okay, so this was a small brush fire. I believe it was Glitters and Gold was asking how it started. And I didn't really know, but apparently it was a small brush fire turned into a raging inferno within the space of a half an hour. The Pacific Palisades resident who lives on Las Lomas Avenue said as many as 20 homes were burning as he fled to safety Tuesday from the Palisades fire. Things were moving so quickly, said Hurwitz, who was working at home when the flames erupted. Within a few minutes, there were multiple fires. Hurwitz said he rushed around his home, grabbing practical items, including clothing for his 2 elementary school-age children. I wouldn't even grab clothing. Laptops and medications. I would literally just grab the kids. I have the important paperwork, but I don't know which thing it's in right now. I wouldn't be grabbing. I mean, I suppose maybe I'd grab my iPad. Yeah, medications is really important. I have those in bags, my son's and mine, in 2 separate bags in my room because I fill his pill box for him. And I don't want him to ever get upset at his medication like he has in the past and just chuck it down the toilet or threaten to. It's in here when he can calm down. Okay, and he grabbed medications as well as more sentimental belongings such as artwork and family heirlooms. I'd be grabbing all the pets. Can you imagine when you're in a frenzy trying to find them all? You know, how awful to know there's flames near your home, right? And you can't find your cat. Maybe your dog is easier to find and louder and whatnot, but cats, you know, if you don't have time, oh, how awful. After arriving at his parents' home in Calabasas, where he watched news of the fire unfolding, he was mourning the items his family may have lost. He wondered if his home was even still standing. His children questioned whether their school, Marquez Charter Elementary, which was evacuated Tuesday, was damaged and if they'd be able to return. Hurwitz, who grew up in Southern California, moved from the East Coast to Pacific Palisades more than 2 years ago, drawn to the community for its breathtaking views and family-friendly atmosphere. But fire risk has been on his mind. There hasn't been a day I've lived there, Hurwitz said, where I haven't thought, 1, this is the most beautiful place in the world, and 2, it may all go up in flames at some point. Good grief. Run for your lives. Motorists trying to flee Pacific Palisades face flames, chaos, and danger. Okay, this is one of the pictures. It looks like people are grabbing their suitcases and things and fleeing the area. Residents fleeing a wildfire in Pacific Palisades faced a gauntlet of danger as roads became choked with traffic and fast-moving flames threatened evacuation routes. When a spot fire erupted off Sunset Boulevard and Palisades Drive, some motorists abandoned their cars by the time the flames reached Pacific Coast Highway around 2 p.m. What? Fire officials ordered those residents who were unable to flee their neighborhoods to shelter in place as crews battled flames along Sunset Boulevard. Now that would be really darn scary. Stay in your home. We're going to battle this fire that's creeping up near you. Okay, that's scary. There's a fire literally right behind her. Off behind the tree. A woman cries as the Palisades fire advances, so she's crying, in the Pacific Palisades neighborhood on January 7. As a brush fire tore through Pacific Palisades on Tuesday, evacuees quickly jammed the area's whirligig of canyon and hillside roads as black smoke descended in 50-mile-an-hour gusts, forcing some to abandon their cars and flee on foot. County bulldozers were pushing roughly 30 ditched vehicles out of the way on Palisades Drive and Sunset Boulevard to clear a path for fire crews and further evacuations. And I started my live, as far as the fire part of it, with that. If anybody has a car, leave the keys in the car so we can move your car so that these fire trucks can get up Palisades Drive. Adding that he has friends stuck up the hill unable to get out because of abandoned vehicles blocking the roads. Yikes. Ellen Deloche Bacher abandoned her car on Sunset Boulevard after the fire exploded behind a Starbucks along the road. Okay, so this fire is behind a Starbucks. And she's abandoned her. I mean, okay, so this is another reason to make sure there's masks in your cars at all times. Whether you believe in them or not, and you live in California, most Democrats and Californians believe in wearing masks, and I always have. But then you're prepared. You're not going to die or choke to death. Well, necessarily. Okay, so okay, dangerous winds prompted Southern California Edison to shut off power to thousands of customers. Palisades fire from the garage rooftop of the Anara Apartments in Santa Monica. Okay, can you imagine? I think he lives in those apartments. He's on the rooftop taking a picture of the smoke looming by. By. So it says a life-threatening and destructive windstorm is forecast to last through Thursday, bringing severe fire danger and widespread power outages across Southern California. Wait, you guys, is Mab from Southern California? Now I can't remember. 3 Dot and Mab. Isn't Mab like 30 miles from Pasadena, or is that 3 Dot? Does anybody know? Thanks, Lolsey. Thank you for the compliment. Okay, I'm catching up on Hope's Echo says paperwork and pics if time, pets, and out of there. Yep. Yeah, this light is my it's a very sheer big light bulb that doesn't get too hot, thank God, with my red silk scarf thing. And then I've got the light, of course. Oh, golly, you guys. Okay, so this guy is the Police Academy actor Steve Guttenberg jumps in to help battle Los Angeles wildfire. Is it just a picture? I'm wanting to see more. Okay. No, it isn't. Wait. Oh, get through this ad. Oh, good grief. Okay, that's scary. Oh, gosh. Okay, what the heck was that? Oh, for other sakes. Okay, this is Steve Gutenberg. It takes two actors. Steve Gutenberg is helping fire crews battle the Pacific Palisades fire. Well, when I'm done with my live tonight, I know what I'm going to be watching. California. Dozens have started to smash through roads filled with Mercedes, BMWs, Porsches, Teslas, and Bentleys that were abandoned in the middle of the roads, blocking firefighters from responding to the Palisades fire. Can you imagine? I mean, I can't because I'll never have a car that nice. Okay, where's the volume?
It's fascinating. It's like a movie. But I know a lot of folks. I can tell you, the cars that I'm looking at right now, there are Mercedes, there are Teslas, there are Cybertrucks here. Very nice vehicles. But the owners decided to take their keys and just take off. So emergency officials once again said, you can't do that. You shouldn't do that. That causes more of an emergency situation for them to try to get to these homes and the condominiums because they're not exactly sure if up that hill, if there are people up there.
And Gene, as you're, this shot here of where they have cleared the way, you can see those huge active flames at the top of the. It's fascinating to watch this happen.
Moving them out. It's like a movie. You're right. It is. It's fascinating. It's like a movie. But I know a lot of folks. I can tell you, the cars that I'm looking at right now, there are Mercedes, there are Teslas, there are Cybertrucks here. Very nice vehicles. But the owners decided to take their keys and just take off. So emergency officials once again said, you can't do that. You shouldn't do that. That causes more of an emergency situation for them to try to get to these homes and the condominiums because they're not exactly sure if up that hill, if there are people up there.
And Gene, as you're, this shot here of where they have cleared the way, you can see those huge active flames at the top of the. It's fascinating to watch this happen.
Wow. Okay, so we got to see the bulldozer in action on my program. Okay, it's 3:30, nearly there. Snow has stalled all. What about you? Lolsey, where do you live again? What state are you in? I mean, if you want to say, why would happen? There's not always time. I saw what happened in East Tennessee and North Carolina. No time warning came, too late. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, now I get to see what now see? My black eyeliners. Okay, there. Hi, Smiley Miley. We all need bug out bags. Yeah. Well, hello, Cupcake. Oh my gosh, Rapper, look at you. It's so silly. Supposed to get snow on Friday in Georgia, and it's been since 2018 we had an inch or more. Yeah, we have no snow here. 7 years for you, huh, Smiley Miley? Oh. Oh, hi, Cat Swan. Yeah, I talked about it in the beginning of my live. Oh my God, I look kind of tired. I don't ever use a filter, but it depends on the light. I'm gonna turn this off. All right, so my mom had tests done yesterday. She's still at the Mayo Clinic. Her husband is driving up and to see her tonight. She said she's been feeling kind of lonely. She had her test done, or a test done, where they went in and pulled out some of the fluid in her cells to find out what kind of cancer and where it's stemming from. Yeah, very depressing. I actually cried. I just couldn't keep from doing it. I tried not to. Especially after she said that she can't eat anything. Like, she can't eat anything. And I didn't know if that just meant like it tasted bad and whatever. She can't keep it down, but ensure she can. Thank God for that. Or I would be just sick. Thank you, Cat Swan. Thank you. Thank you. I don't even know if she knows I'm back on the internet, because I took off June, July, and August. Is she okay? She's okay. I mean, she's drinking Ensure. The problem is she was in her 90s, and then might have gotten down to the 80s and could be 70 something in weight. Like, that's just way too. I would probably just gasp if I saw her. So, yeah, but I did get some pictures of her, which I really don't know if I should show them. Oh, maybe sometime or someday I will. So, okay, so this is an update from NBC News. I'm not going to go on and on forever about this, but this is only 42 minutes ago. Let's see.
Volatile situation that's unfolding here right now. We are hearing Liz Kreutz, NBC News, Los Angeles.
What?
Yeah, well, Lester, this is a chaotic, volatile situation that's unfolding here right now.
Oh, good grief, you guys. Oh, I just touched the slightest little thing. Hold on. And what? Why can't I hear?
Right now, we are hearing reports of people trapped. There are hundreds of people that have been trying to get out. It's created gridlock traffic. In fact, all of these cars around me right here on Sunset Boulevard are abandoned with people who just got out to get out on foot. There's hundreds of firefighters that are working this fire right now, all of it driven by an intense wind event that is just getting started. Tonight, panic in the Pacific Palisades as a wind-driven wildfire blazes through one of Southern California's most iconic neighborhoods.
People are panicking, and it's a parking lot. So there's about an hour wait at the bottom of Palisades Drive.
I rushed over here to pack my belongings, and I got the evacuation orders.
Multiple homes burning, with residents told to get out. Some people getting trapped.
There's fire on both sides of the road.
Many abandoning their cars in the gridlock traffic. Fire crews using a bulldozer to push cars out of the way to clear a path. We are in bumper-to-bumper traffic right now as hundreds of people try to get out. You can see flames here on both sides of the road with very little visibility.
God.
Evacuation orders are in place for approximately 30,000 residents. Households threatened, approximately 10,367.
Our NBC Los Angeles station inside this hard-hit neighborhood.
This is a large clock
here. A large what looks like an antique, very beautiful family clock here on the ground. There are also photo albums that the firefighters pulled from the home just minutes before the flames overtook it because they said that they felt like they at least wanted to save something.
Smoke from the growing fire seen for miles around LA, where another brush fire ignited in West Hollywood.
This is something you hardly ever see. We are in the heart of LA on Sunset Boulevard, where there was a brush fire that shut down the road here. All these firefighters trying to get ahead of the wind, putting out the flames that were up in these hills.
Firefighters using airdrops to put out the flames. Tonight, 19 million people under red flag warnings, with wind gusts throughout the state expected to reach 100 miles per hour in some areas, sending trees onto cars and power lines.
The only thing I heard above that wind was the power lines popping.
The intense smoke creating dangerous air quality across Southern California, with the firefight continuing into the night where high winds are expected to only further fan the flames. Liz Kreutz, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Oh, gosh.
Fallout tonight after Meta's mega move to eliminate.
I'm so glad I don't live anywhere in California. We have fires here 2 summers ago. Wasn't last summer, but the one before it. We literally stayed inside for 4 days because I'm half an hour, 20 minutes to half an hour from Canada, and the Canadian mountains were on fire. And then we have Montana. Montana was on fire, and I'm talking hundreds of fires in Montana, Canada, and Washington State. I'm 2 hours from Seattle. In Seattle, literally, there was ash on people's cars. I saw it on the news. So we were surrounded, this town I'm in, which is 2 hours from Seattle, like I said. I'm a mile from a bay. I think the population here is 500,000 or maybe more now. Probably a lot more. It was 55,000 in 91 when I moved here in 91. Yeah, so that's pretty incredible. Because if you're out in these fires, I think is it half an hour of being in smoke like that is equivalent to like 15 cigarettes. I read that somewhere. I hope I got the numbers correct. I could ask Google. I think I will. Hey, Google. Hey, Google. Oh, it took a minute to come on. Hey, Google.
The mic's back on.
Hey, Google. How many cigarettes could somebody smoke to the equivalency of being out in a wildfire?
On the website woods.stanford.edu, they say, an AQI measurement of 20 is equivalent to smoking 1 cigarette a day, explained Nadeau. Communities exposed to wildfire smoke causing AQI of 150 for several days is equivalent to about 7 cigarettes a day if someone were outside the whole time.
Oh, that's not too bad. 7 cigarettes a day if you're outside all day long. Okay, I thought it was 15. Okay, hey Google, update us with the Palisades fire in California today?
Sorry, I don't understand.
Hey Google, volume up. What is the update for the Los Angeles fire today? Wait, did I say hey Google? Hey Google. Hey Google. Hey Google. Hey Google. Hey Google. What? Hey Google.
Sure, sorry, I don't understand.
Hey Google. Have there been any fatalities confirmed in the LA fire today?
Sorry, I don't understand.
Are there any confirmed fatalities in the Los Angeles fire today? Oh, wait, I didn't say hey Google again. Hey Google. Are there any fatalities in the Los Angeles fire today, January 7, 2025?
Sorry, I didn't understand.
Okay. Hey Google, what is happening to the Palisades fire now in LA?
Sorry, I didn't understand.
All right.
But I found something related. Do you want to know where is Palisades fire spreading?
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
Where is the fire spreading? Palisades. Oh, shoot, I forgot to say hey Google again. Hey Google, where is the Palisades fire in LA spreading to?
Sorry, I don't understand.
Oh, God. Okay, that's enough of that.
The mic's off.
Good. The mic is off. Mine are in here before. What? Is she in LA? Who's that? Is she all right? Arson on their home. We attached at the time. What? It's the same person. That's horrible about her house, though. But I tried 18 years now, and it's like it's yesterday. What? What? I know who she is. She doesn't like me at all, but, it's okay. Her house burned down last night? That's awful. That is awful. I don't know if she lives down south. I think she might. Because way back ago, she was a regular on Rebels and stuff. Oh, wow. I'm glad I don't live in California or anywhere in the Western U.S. If I lived there, I'd be freaking out because of the fires. I imagine a lot of people lose their homes with those fires. Yeah, and these people, like in along the water there, whatever, they want to stay and rebuild. And I guess if they have the money, then, oh no. I can relate a little bit to that. Not my neighbor, but a friend of ours, Parker's very best friend. Well, let's see. My son was 18 and he was 19, and my son's 19 or 29 now, so 11 years ago. He died of smoke inhalation. He lived with us for 2 weeks. He was homeless. He, wasn't getting along with his family. I could only let him stay here 2 weeks so we wouldn't get in trouble, with our housing. But, You know, I gave him a sleeping bag, and he was out on the floor, and he had his laptop, and he was special needs too. And he was best friends, 1 year older, with my son. And I didn't know how on earth I was going to break it to him. And his other friend, Josh, called me and said, Alex died. And I said, no, he didn't. Are you sure you got the right Alex? Yeah, it's him. And I saw it on the news, and I heard where he lived. And anyway, I ended up going to his memorial because I felt like I should. You know, I didn't know him real well, but he was here a couple of weeks. And Parker didn't go. Parker wouldn't be able to handle anything like that. I mean, I asked him if he wanted to go, but he just... So actually had his picture. It must be in an envelope somewhere. Oh, it is. His sister had a few things to give away or something, and no, that's not what it was. When he stayed here, he left his electric toothbrush and the earbuds to his thing. So I put them in a little brown small paper bag with a picture that we had of him. Yeah. And I've said this story before, but what happened was they took the batteries out of the smoke detector things in this house he was staying at. And it was a boy about 15. And then Alex was there, and then another boy in his early 20s, and a little girl and the mother. And someone had taken the batteries out to use in some PlayStation or something. I don't know. This is back, a little bit. And but you don't even use batteries in a PlayStation. So what it was for, I don't know. Maybe just for something else random. And the older boy had those little votive candles on his bed, and he was getting really stoned, and the bed caught on fire, and he jumped off the bed, ran downstairs, saved his little sister who was sleeping downstairs. I think this was all at about 1 a.m, if I recall. The mother got out, that person did, but the smoke was all upstairs through this whole upper area, and the teenage boy knew what direction to go, even in the dark, because that's the thing. It's pitch black when there's fires and smoke, and then the electric goes off, and it becomes even more scary. And he singed his eyebrows and broke his arm when he jumped out the window. But Alex was very tall, very lanky. I can't imagine the fear. I'm going to get choked up if I think about it anymore. Yeah. Oh, would it be the controller maybe? Possibly. All right. So we can all watch more of this unfold. Wow, 2 hours of I talked about my phone experience of being phished, PHISHED, by some Indian sounding, I don't know, man. And I kept saying, why would there, I said 3 different times, why would this security be so, why would someone say yes to something for security to check it when they're saying yes to money being taken out? Like, I just couldn't believe it. But the amount, $1,500, freaked me out. But I said yes, because I believed him when he said it was a security thing. And the thing is, if he had gotten uptight, like, oh, now come on and stop it, this is, you want your security or not, or whatever, I would have just clicked. But he was good, really good. Stayed calm, stayed on the phone with me, and I almost lost $1,500 today. Twice. Yeah. So, but it didn't work, thank God, because my bank was on it. And then I called my bank and, found out it was a scam. I mean, I even said I've never been on the last 2 times I had to get a new card because somebody really was trying to make purchases and stuff. Yeah, I've been getting, well, the only, not phone calls, but things I've been getting are text messages, right? With this 8 dash question mark, blah, blah, blah. And they're saying that my phone plan is running out and I need to give card information and this and that. And I don't even hit on it, right? But then I fall for this today. You'll have to see the beginning of my live if you didn't see it. I'm telling you, I just saw a thing on Seattle News about it. You don't ever have to give your card number out. And I didn't until he was reading. He knew part of the numbers. So I thought it was legit when he knew part of the numbers. Oh, really? Wow. They're good, you guys. Oh, thank you, Lolsey, for coming in. Thank you. Thanks so much for everyone being here. Lolsey, this is such a good book. I don't know if you caught my last live, but I read chapter 1 and 2, Drinking a Love Story. And it's reality. It's truth, but a real story, but the names have been changed. It's by Carolyn Knapp. I read it about 10 years ago, and it's a New York Times bestseller, which, I'll add to my thumbnail. So I had the copyright thing in. Somebody put it in, though, earlier, so I guess I don't have to read it for this book. I hope to God when I was getting my son his late dinner or whatever, that because he slept all day, he was up all night, so he slept all day, that no commercials came on, because I think you have to be monetized for one to even be allowed, and I'm not, I believe. Okay. So well, that's good of you to help her. It's wintertime, AK-47, she's homeless. But if she has a drinking or drugging problem, you're going to have to do tough love. And if she breaks that, well, I can't remember if you quit drinking or cut down, or maybe she'll just drink with you if you haven't, but just be careful. Okay, so I'm on chapter 3, Destiny, okay? Alcohol travels through families like water over a landscape, sometimes in torrents, sometimes in trickles, always shaping the ground it covers. So I read chapter 1 was love, like your love, and your first love is alcohol when you become like, maybe not your first love, but when you're really in deep and you rationalize in your brain why you need that drink and it's not that bad. And then the second chapter was double life. And this is destiny. Sometimes in torrents, sometimes in trickles, always shaping the ground it covers in inexorable ways. In some families, alcohol washes across whole generations, a liquid plague. My friend Abby comes from so many generations of alcoholics, she can't count them. An Irish family, the drinking goes all the way back to the potato fields, hundreds of years. Her mother is an alcoholic, and so are 5 of her mother's 6 brothers and sisters. Every one of those siblings married an alcoholic except for Abby's mother. Almost every one of Abby's 28 first cousins is an alcoholic as well. Needless to say, Abby is an alcoholic herself. Growing up, I heard stories about other families like that too. Not many, but a few, and all of them told in hushed tones by people who witnessed the effects. My friend Lauren's father drank. Lauren knew that, and so did all of her best friends. And we all knew that something was wrong about it. The way he'd sit in the living room for hours with a drink in his hand. The way you'd never know what to expect from him. Sometimes he'd seem jovial and cheery. Sometimes he'd get sour and disapproving and mean. Lauren was scared of him, so we were too. This was when we were 10 and 12 and 14. If we went to Lauren's after school or spent the night at her house, we kept our distance from her father and managed to avoid being alone with him in the same room. Lauren told dark stories about her father's past. He'd been married to a crazy woman who also drank. They'd had a daughter, and she'd gone crazy too. We didn't quite know how or why, but something had happened, and we knew that alcohol was part of the equation, that it had to be. In the last years of my drinking, I developed a routine of meeting another friend, Eliza, for dinner once or twice a month at a restaurant called Davio's. Eliza's mother is an alcoholic, so sometimes we talk about what it was like for her to grow up in an alcoholic household, how crazy and unpredictable it had been. She'd talk about her mother sitting at the dinner table, working on her 5th or 6th or 7th bourbon. Her eyes glazed, her head drooping toward the plate. She'd describe her mom calling her on the phone late at night and slurring her words, making no sense, remembering none of it the following day. Eliza's house sounded like a place of chaos and storm, where people lost their tempers, then staggered up the stairs, slamming doors behind them. Craziness, dark secrets, alcoholic furies. That's how you become an alcoholic, right? It's encoded in your DNA, embedded in your history, the product of some wild familial aberration. There was always an undercurrent of moral failing in the stories I heard about alcoholics. They were unstable, unwell, irresponsible, and if they were parents, they tore through the lives of their children like tornadoes, drinking and divorcing, screaming and raging. Alcoholics from households like that made sense. When Eliza told me that her father was an alcoholic too, I nodded. Of course he was. Who wouldn't be with a family like that? Of course, active alcoholics love hearing about the worst cases. We cling to stories about them. Those are the true alcoholics, the unstable and the lunatic, the bum in the subway, drinking from the bottle, the red-faced salesman slugging it down in a cheap hotel. Those alcoholics are always a good 10 or 20 steps farther down the line than we are. And no matter how many private pangs of worry we harbor about our own drinking, they always serve to remind us that we're okay, safe, in sufficient control. Growing up, whatever vague definition of alcoholism I had centered around the crazy ones, Eliza's mother, Lauren's father's ex-wife, the occasional drunken parent of a friend. Alcoholics like that make you feel so much better. You can look at them and think, but my family wasn't crazy. I'm not like that. I must be safe. When you're drinking, the dividing line between you and real trouble always manages to fall just past where you stand. I met Abby toward the end of my first year of sobriety. She showed up in an AA meeting on her 3rd day without a drink. A small woman of 38, rather fragile in appearance, with high cheekbones and wide eyes, and she looked as shell-shocked as a Vietnam vet, blank and vacant and exhausted. We became friendly early on and started hanging out together a couple of times a week at a little cafe in Cambridge called the 1369 Coffee House. So now we're on to a chapter where this woman's been sober a year, and in the first 2 chapters, she's certainly not. She, got wasted at a Thanksgiving party and almost killed her friend's 2 daughters by falling in the middle of the street with them on the cement when she toppled over, and they were little. One was on her back, one was clinging to her front. Her mother was extremely concerned. She justified it because her father had passed away from a brain tumor. And later on, a few years later, she says in the first or second chapter, her mother passes away from metastatic breast cancer. And she would always get off work and, go across the street to a Chinese restaurant that was kind of dark, in these red booths, and drink and drink and drink, and not just wine, shots and different things. It is sad and it is depressing, but if you're talking about the book, Lolsey, because I'm trying to read a book that's not real long, see? So I'm a good halfway through already, and I'm on chapter 3 that could possibly resonate with somebody that is struggling with alcoholism or knows somebody, and that it's not just a physical problem, right? It's spiritual and, of course, psychological. And I quit drinking 13 years ago, and I hope I can, I want to say do another 13 years, but it's one day at a time, another day. I have no problem with it now, but I've met so many people at AA that had 25 years and drank. And the thing is, they were right back to where they were, even though they had no alcohol in their system, when they knew they had to stop. And that's what's so scary about it. So, yeah. So, and this is a New York Times bestseller, and it was written in 1996. It is an older book. But you saying it, the book ain't you. No, but the rationalizing and, oh, at least I'm not homeless, right? I couldn't be an alcoholic, or I don't go out every night, right? I'm not an alcoholic, or I only drink on weekends. Yeah, I drink too much on weekends, but I'm not an alcoholic. I'm here to say more than likely you are, if you have a pattern of it. That's what I've learned. But in AA, for people who don't know about Alcoholics Anonymous, you're not judged. And nobody is supposed to tell you, oh, you're an alcoholic. It's a good thing you're here. You don't even have to talk. You can just see what it's like, Okay, so we'd hook up there before meetings and sit in the back where smoking is allowed. Okay, now a lot of them, there's no smoking. Remember, this is written in 96. Drinking 16-ounce lattes in tall glasses. Lots of coffee at these meetings. The more sober Abby got, the more her own background and history came into focus. And over the first few months of our meetings, she'd let little details of her life drop, one by one, little bombshells on the square wooden tabletop. She'd mentioned one day that her older brother was schizophrenic, then another that he'd unalived himself, then the next that he'd come on to her sexually. Trigger warning. I haven't read this in a long time. I don't think it's going to go on and on details. 2 nights before the unaliving, climbing into her bed in the middle of the night, she'd fended off the advance, and he unalived himself 2 days later, carbon monoxide poisoning. Abby had discovered his body in the garage. She was 15. She told me about the unaliving one afternoon in March. Abby cried all the time back then. We'd sit in the back of the 1369 and she'd weep, and later on we'd joke that everyone in the cafe must have thought the two of us were having a huge, complicated love relationship, breaking up back there 2-3 times a week. That day she was smoking a Marlboro Light and struggling not to cry, but she could see the pain cross her face in waves, washing up from some dark place inside. I didn't know what to say. I rarely knew what to say when Abby talked about her family. So I'd just sit there and look at her intently and murmur things. Oh, God. Or, ugh. Part of this was the sheer horror of the details. There aren't words for stories about schizophrenia and unaliving, but part of it was something else too. I could also feel some part of me using Abby's story to call my own alcoholism into question, to compare, to look back and say, me? No way. She came from the kind of household you'd expect an alcoholic to come from, and my own family was so different from that, so much more stable and quiet in its confrontations with pain. We joked about this the day she told me about her brother's unaliving. I should be writing your story, I said. It's so much more dramatic than mine. She's a writer, this woman who's met this Abby in a newspaper for her real job. She arched an eyebrow and looked at me. Oh, you've got your own shit. I nodded. We talked about the difference. Her story was a mini-series, an epic drama spanning generations, something that would star Brad Pitt and Julia Ormond. Mine was more along the lines of John Updike novel or a short story by John Cheever. You're the nice, quiet alcoholic, Abby said, the good intellectual alcoholic. She was right, of course, the nice, quiet alcoholic. I smiled. You never would have known, I said, and then I told her about the very first time I got drunk in secret. I was 16, a senior in high school, and I'd realized over the course of a phone call that the boy I'd been dating was losing interest in me. I forget the phone call, but I remember the feeling, pending rejection, the sense I'd done something wrong. I didn't kiss well. Was that it? I wasn't pretty enough. I was in my bedroom on the second floor of our house, and I stole downstairs and snuck a bottle of wine out of an open case in my parents' kitchen. Then I took a corkscrew from the kitchen drawer and went upstairs and drank the whole thing, straight from the bottle. I hid the empty bottle in my closet. This was not the first time I'd ever gotten smashed. I don't remember the details, but I probably had my first drink at age 12 or 13, and I know I was getting drunk at least periodically by my sophomore year of high school, age 14. Nor was this an alcoholic frenzy, a question of physical craving, the way it would be later on. The drinking felt more like an experiment, an act based on some vague hypothesis I'd begun to form about the connection between liquor and anxiety, liquor and sadness, how one corrected the other. Drink as remedy, I told Abby, a little equation I picked up at home. My father drank. He was a tall, distinguished man of bracing intelligence and insight, and I grew up scared of him, not because he was mean or violent, but because he was anxious and sad himself, and because he had a kind of intensity that made you feel he could see right through you. I was his favorite, and I grew up suspecting that his partiality had to do with some core kinship between the two of us, something he sensed early on. I guess I sensed it too, as far back as I can recall. I had the feeling that my father was equipped with a mysterious power, a kind of X-ray vision, as though he could turn his psychic laser on me and see a shared darkness, a seed of sadness he wanted to watch over as I grew. Your mother and I made an agreement. He announced this to me one day, the year he was dying. We were sitting outside on my parents' deck, and he just blurted it out. It was so much work taking care of twins that we decided she'd take care of Becca and I'd take care of you. We sort of divided you up. Wow. He's like blurting this out to her. This is the man. Hi, St. Elmo's Fire. They were accident-free and good. Thank you so much. Thank you. I did, though, slam this bad finger because it sticks out all the time. I still can't bend it. Yesterday, I washed my hands in hot water like I always do, but I pushed to try to get some circulation going because, look, well, you guys can't even really tell. This, oops, gosh darn it. See how we have the same color all the way down pretty much, and see how it's white and a darker here? Yeah. It's purple. It's literally purple. So yeah, okay. I reported that to my mother several months after he died, and she was so mad she practically spit. That is bullshit, she said. We did nothing of the kind. She dismissed it as one of his fantasies, of which it appeared there were many. But most fantasies can be bound with a thread of reality. All it takes is a certain willingness to believe. Whether he wished it were true or deluded himself into believing it, the agreement was real to him. My father had always seen me as his child, separate from the others, aligned with him at the core. Both of us had always understood that without acknowledging it openly, and the understanding had entangled us in ways that would shape me all my life. Our sympathy had the feel of a pact. That link was hard to live with, hard for a child to understand. My father had a probing manner, an analytic intensity tempered by a vague detachment. And whenever I sensed him turn his attention to me, the feeling on my part was instinctual and claustrophobic. Don't yield. Let this man in too deeply, and he'll consume you. A few times when I was small, he'd come up to my room before I went to sleep and ask me to draw pictures on a white pad, a form of free association for children. I didn't know what he was after, but I knew he was after something. So I drew obvious things, scary monsters, storms in the night. I could sense, even at age 8 or 9, that he was on an expedition, probing for something that may have had more to do with him than with me. So I neither fought him nor gave him any answers. Let him think I'm afraid of the dark. Later, the probing became more direct. We didn't talk much, at least not in the easy familial ways I imagined other fathers talk to their daughters. But when we did, he always wanted to know something, always wanted something I couldn't give him. When I was 13, my best friend was a girl named Nina who lived about 20 minutes west of Boston by car. And my father would sometimes drive me out to her house on a Saturday and come back to pick me up the next day. We'd be alone in the car for 20 minutes at a stretch, and this terrified me. Okay, I don't know where this is leaning to. Maybe I think he was just sort of odd. I don't think he takes advantage of her. That's what I'm getting this feeling. Is she alluding to this? But I'll just keep reading. I know I finished the book, though. I'm not remembering this. It's just so, okay. How are you? He'd ask. I'd stare out the window and say, fine, trying for a casual tone. A moment would pass and he'd try again. How are you feeling? Then he'd shift his eyes from the road and look at me. My father was a big man, 6 feet tall, 165 pounds, with a high, distinguished forehead and a grave, thoughtful expression. When he questioned me like that, I could see a glint of yearning in his eyes. Not a physical yearning, but a deeply emotional one, edged with discomfort, as though he understood that his efforts to reach me were failing, that I couldn't answer him fully and wouldn't if I could. I'd look at him, then quickly look away. I felt small and exposed in his presence, as though my body was transparent and fragile as air, as though I might evaporate at any moment or blow away. I'd say, I'm feeling okay, and a leaden silence would follow. The older I got, the more powerful my father seemed, probably because I figured out over time that his influence extended well beyond me. He was revered in his profession, adored by students at Boston University Medical School, where he taught for 49 years. Universally respected by colleagues, he directed the medical school's department of psychosomatic medicine, considered a national leader in psychosomatic research. Okay. I was nervous that, it was going to lead to something like that, but it's not. He was just, instead of just saying, oh, how you doing? He's like, how are you really? Like he deeply cared. And that was part of the bond they had, I guess. Because now it says, when he died, I was charged with writing his obituary. In it, I used weighty words, distinguished, esteemed, and I used 15-syllable phrases. Training analyst at the Boston Analytic Institute, past president of the American Psychosomatic Society, a member of dozens of national and international psychiatric associations, and the author of scores of articles and monographs. And I regretted that I didn't have the room to communicate how devoted he was to his work, how he cried in the hospital after his diagnosis when it came time to write letters to his analytic patients explaining that he'd have to terminate their therapy, how deeply engaged he was his whole life in that particular world of ideas. At his funeral, after esteemed colleagues stood up and talked about him. What a fascinating mind he had, how accessible and generous he was with his time, what a rich, enthusiastic presence he'd been. None of the accolades surprised me. I'd always known my father was a brilliant man, but I suppose his intellect fed the sense of hunger I felt around him as a teenager, my feeling that he had this secret store of wisdom that I could only tap into periodically through subtle glances of understanding or flashes of humor. Humor was the one connection we had that felt simple and ambiguous. Despite his weighty presence, my father had a droll, witty side, all charm and charisma, and I loved that version of him. He made the best speeches and toasts. At large family gatherings or dinner parties, he was the person everybody depended on to stand up at just the right moment and say something perfect, something eloquent and wry and thoughtful, words that filled the whole room with a sense of meaning. He had one of the all-time great smiles, too. When you said something he found amusing, his whole face would twist into a grin, all teeth and crinkled eyes, as if you'd just slayed him with humor. That reminds me of my father, but it would be him being funny and then having that big. He could make you feel really special that way, singularly special, as though you were a bright light in his life, and he had some key to that light, a way of accessing the things about you that were real and true. In a sense, even his dark questioning could make you feel that way. There was genuine interest behind it, as though he really wanted to get in there and know you, guide you, share something central. But he was such an odd combination of articulate and awkward, so complex and pensive and remote, and his oblique, psychiatric manner often gave me the weird sensation of being attended to and invisible at the same time, deeply connected and yet misunderstood. Mostly, though, he left me sad, this present, unreachable man. I think my father genuinely wanted to be close to me, to be a loving and helpful parent. The problem was that he got in too deep, and that left me with a feeling of being a specimen instead of a daughter, something to be investigated and shaped instead of just loved, just simply loved. Aside from his intensity, I don't have that many memories of my father from childhood. I can recall minor things, the way he used to carry my sister and me upstairs to bed at night and scare us, tipping back as he ascended the steps, pretending he was about to fall. We'd cling to his neck and squeal. Sometimes if we couldn't sleep at night, he'd set a chair in the hall outside our bedroom and count out loud. We'd listen to the counting and drift off, and in the morning he'd tell us the precise number at which we'd fallen asleep. It never occurred to me that he'd have no way of knowing this. I just assumed my dad knew everything about me. He seemed that big and that all-knowing, like the Wizard of Oz. One morning when I was 16, I came downstairs to breakfast and found him at the kitchen table with his black coffee and English muffin. He was reading the New York Times, and he set aside the paper when I sat down and peered at me over his reading glasses. I'd been out on a date the night before, making out in a car with some boy and feeling all scared and tingly. Tingly. As I recall, I was hung over that morning, too. He continued to look at me. He said, "What's new?" The question wasn't casual. His delivery, deliberate, penetrating, always made me feel like I was supposed to produce some piercing insight or hand him some deeply held secret right there at the table. Sitting in front of him felt like sitting before God. I felt like he could peer straight into my skull and see 1,000 things, see me drinking beer and kissing a boy, see the outlines of sexual feeling rising up in my skinny adolescent body. In times like that, I felt so overwhelmed I wanted to curl up under the table and die. I reached for a glass of orange juice and muttered something non-committal. Nothing much. He peered some more, as if searching for the right way in, words that would tap into whatever it was we shared. So, he said, do you have any new thoughts or feelings? I sat there, absolutely mute. Communication with my father could feel so stunted that way, aborted. His questions were so big, so personal, and all-encompassing. They left you with only two choices, confess all or clam up entirely. That morning, like most mornings, I chose the latter, choked out a single guilty, self-protective no. No. What was the question? Oh, yeah. Do you have any new thoughts or feelings? And she said no. Alcohol offered another kind of protection, a much more effective, liquid kind that lightened things, diluted some of the distance and confusion and reserve. I learned that early on just from watching him. My father had a particular fondness for martinis. He'd come home late after seeing patients. 7 o'clock, 7:30, he'd take a bath, change out of his jacket and tie, then go into the living room and make up a pitcher. My mother set up the cocktail tray every night, a small bowl of raw carrots, a small bowl of unsalted peanuts, a tiny glass dish with his twists of lemon, and they'd sit together on the sofa and he'd drink the first one. He never got ugly, not even once. He never even seemed to get drunk until later in his life, when he'd sometimes fall asleep on the couch after dinner. But you could tell watching him sip those martinis year after year after year that there was something central about the ritual, something deeply soothing and needful about it. I liked that ritual long before I started to drink myself. Without realizing it, I learned to look forward to it. My parents were normally so quiet. They'd sit on the sofa, my mother knitting and my father staring out the window, and a tension would hang over the room like fog, a preoccupied silence that always made me feel wary, as though something bad were about to happen. My mother would say something about her day, how she'd ordered some new curtains, say, or taken the dog to the vet. And even though my father didn't ignore her in any obvious way, you'd get the sense that he wasn't listening, that his thoughts were about 6 blocks down the street. 5 minutes would pass like that, or 10. Then he'd drink his martini, perhaps pour the second one. He'd begin to loosen up, and within a few minutes, it would feel as though all the molecules in the room had risen up and then rearranged themselves, settling down into a more comfortable pattern. The difference was subtle but real, a sense that he shifted from slightly disengaged to slightly more available. He might tell a joke after that first drink, or shift his gaze from the window and meet your eyes, or respond to my mother in a more present way. What kind of curtains? He'd say, or what's wrong with the dog? The martini seemed to take some coarse stiffness out of him, to ease a deep sadness, and sitting there watching them, I'd feel like I'd been holding my breath for a long time, and finally I could let it out. My father introduced me to martinis and Spanish sherry and single malt scotch. More relief, a more complete protection. The summer after my senior year in high school, he took me to dinner at a Greek restaurant in downtown Boston. It was the first time we'd ever gone out to dinner alone, and he ordered a martini for himself and wine for me. We sat in a red leather booth with paneled walls, and when we sat down, the waiter addressed my father by name. "Good evening, Dr. Knapp," he said, and my father nodded in his brusque, formal way and ordered the drinks. Okay, so I thought this Carolyn Knapp right here was writing a story about someone that told her about their life and she changed names. But no, this is literally her life, which is more interesting to me. Okay, I sat on my hands. I remember feeling that particularly acute brand of teenage awkwardness, unable to think of a word to say, and I remember a thick, interminable silence. I also remember an empty feeling, a wariness, something I often felt, my father's presence, looking for some nod of encouragement or approval from him, hoping for something to fill the gap between us. But then the wine came, one glass, and then a second glass, and somewhere during that second drink, the switch was flipped. The wine gave me a melting feeling, a warm, light sensation in my head, and I felt like safety itself had arrived in that glass, poured out from the bottle and allowed to spill out between us. I don't remember what we talked about that night, but I do know that the discomfort was diminished, replaced by something that felt like a kind of love, like drinking stars. That's how Mary Carr describes it in her memoir, The Liars Club, a line she picked up from her mother. She drank red wine and 7-Up one night from a bone china cup when she was a kid, and she felt that slow warmth almost like a light. Something like a big sunflower was opening at the very center of my being, she writes. And when I read that, I knew exactly what she meant. The wine just eased through me in that Greek restaurant, all the way through to my bones, illuminating some calm and gentler piece of my soul. Drinking with my father always made me feel like that. It wasn't so much that he got any less godlike when we drank. It was that I'd feel more God-worthy, less intimidated with a few drinks in me, more self-assured. I could plop down next to him on the sofa and talk. I could evoke those wide grins from him, punch him on the shoulder, create a version of the father-daughter rapport that felt more natural and ordinary. I took to calling him by his name when I drank. "Hey, Pete," I'd say, and calling him that felt good. Like we were a pair of regular folks, special in our attachment, but human too. What a relief it was. What a release. The drink turned that weird bond of ours into something I could hold in my hand, like a treasure, instead of something that just glinted in the air between us. It allowed me to respond to my father in a new way, to align myself with him without fear, to seal our pact. Over the years, I've come to think of memories as tiny living things, microorganisms that swim through the brain until they found the right compartment in which to settle down and rest. If the compartment isn't available, if there's no proper label for the memory, it takes up residence somewhere else, gets lodged in a corner and gnaws at you periodically, cropping up at odd times or in dreams. All through my adolescence, I dreamed that the kitchen floor in our house was about to collapse, that the wood beneath the linoleum had rotted out, and at any moment the whole family would fall through. I dreamed about getting lost and not being able to find my way back home, and about picking up the telephone and not being able to punch in the right numbers. These are anxious images, false surfaces, false maps, an inability to connect, impending danger. The time I couldn't explain those feelings, the anxiety and the sense of disconnection, they certainly didn't stem from anything you could see by looking. On the outside, my parents' lives appeared eminently calm and controlled, nothing alcoholic about them. No jail sentences, no crashed cars, no messy divorces. Those things happened in other families, other classes. We seemed insulated from all that, equipped with all the elements of protection. We had money and health and intelligence. We had a big modern house in Cambridge and a summer home on Martha's Vineyard, and we went to Puerto Rico for spring vacations every year or rented beach homes in Florida. It's a very small world at the top, my father would repeat that regularly, reminding me that I was one of the lucky ones with access to education and opportunity. That world was shaped in distinct ways by place and time. By Cambridge in the 1960s and 1970s, our politics were liberal, our fibers natural, our schools Ivy League, but for the most part, it was quiet and gently rarefied, kind of home. Wow. Fairly long chapter. Where issues of the New Yorker and Harvard Magazine eased through the mail slot and landed in the front hall with a quiet thwack. There were certain givens, fixed rules, which simplified our lives as kids. My brother and sister and I could ask for things that might enrich us, music lessons, books, summer camp, but not for things that would merely indulge. frivolous clothing, junk food. We were disciplined with words, spoken to, but never hit. We were expected to do well in school and to value education not as a means to an end, but because learning was noble and would make us better people. It was a well-ordered household, an Updike family, achiever clan, calm, educated, cocktails at 7. If you sat down to dinner with us at 7:30, you would have been struck by the sense of reserve, the white 12-inch candles flickering in the center of the table, the silence punctuated by the periodic clatter of a knife or fork against a plate, the actual sound of people swallowing. Our parents were generous and consistent in their own quiet way, but they were markedly undemonstrative. When you went to kiss my mother or father goodnight, they'd lift their chins a little, heads turned up and away, and present one cheek to you, then the other. A family adaptation of the European air kiss. You rarely got kissed back. Instead, you got calm and ritual and clear priorities. The main living spaces in our house, kitchen, dining, and living rooms, were modern additions built onto the original structure in 1959, the year I was born. The living room had soaring ceilings, tall picture windows lined one whole wall, and a fireplace and chimney painted white stretched up to the ceiling at the far end, dividing the living room from the dining area. The whole space had a spare, elegant quality. Furniture covered in muted fabrics, my mother's abstract oils, forming sporadic squares of color on the walls, a sense of graceful hush. There was nothing identifiably wrong in there, nothing but a lingering suspicion of anxiety and sadness, something so subtle it seemed to exist only in the farthest reaches of the rooms, under the gray rug on the floor, or whispering behind the curtains. Okay, I'm going to end it there at 3 hours and continue on tomorrow, all right? Because it's a pretty long chapter. I'm going to read My Courage to Change, which is for Al-Anon, so people that live with people or have friends that are bad alcoholics and you want to learn to detach with love, basically, because that's what Al-Anon helps you to do. And I've been there myself. To Al-Anon, today is January 7th. Just for today, I will have a quiet half hour all by myself and relax. How simple that sounded until I tried to do it. I found it difficult to spend even a little time alone. 30 quiet minutes out of my busy schedule were far too many, so I started with 5 minutes. In time, I was able to find 10, and then 20, and then 30 minutes for myself. Amazingly, these quiet half hours are restoring me to sanity. It is through these times with myself, much of which is spent in prayer and meditation, that I find the peace and power of my God. As a result, I have learned to tolerate and even enjoy my own company. Now, no matter what is going on, I need this half hour every day to get a perspective on my life. By sitting quietly in the midst of turmoil, I find that I am not alone. If I take the time, my higher power sends the message. Today's reminder. Ah, hello. I know that's you, MK. Hi. Me, that's why I'm here. Me too, that's why I'm here. Thanks for coming in. I know that's you, MK, because I'm subscribed to you, and you instantly came up when the other one didn't. Hola, ladies. Thank you. I'm reading a really good book called Drinking, a Love Story. It's a New York Times bestseller by Carolyn Knapp. I read it about 10 years ago and forgotten nearly all of it, and I'm hoping it might resonate with someone that may have a problem. Not everybody that drinks does, but when we're second guessing things right in your life and the way things are going, or you have a certain pattern of it, then you very well might be, and you might want to go to Alcoholics Anonymous or Courage to Change Al-Anon. the parents of alcoholics and their friends and people you work with, and ways to learn to detach with love. Okay, so now today's reminder. I care enough about myself to take a quiet half hour to relax, but if a half hour is more than I can manage, I can let that be all right. Whatever time I give to myself will be a step forward. If I can stop the wheels from turning for even a few moments, my higher power can take charge and steer me in the right direction. And this is by someone named Ovid, O-V-I-D. Take rest. A field that has rested gives a beautiful crop. Okay, so this is what I do. I play some music. I might dance if I find enough songs by that person. Today's music was, in the beginning of this, was this sort of odd, electric, funky rock guitar by a band called Vans in Japan. Like the Vans shoes in Japan. So I thought it was kind of neat. I played 3 songs and then I covered this fire, quite a bit of it. It's horrific. Prayers for everyone in California. Listen, get out of there when they tell you to leave. Don't wait. Don't stand there. I have seen so many pictures. Oh, of people. I just read this. Yeah, I was on the I'm on the cover or thumbnail or whatever of what Mallory Williams' live, where you're talking, but you said for entertainment purposes only, and me doing air guitar. My holy pants. What fire? Horrible. LA is on fire. People literally had to jump out of their cars and leave, some of them with their pets. More than likely, it's on the news somewhere, but I showed footage of cars parked and mangled, and then a bulldozer had to come through and push them out of the way and crunch up all these beautiful cars, right? Mercedes and Bentleys and Teslas and Porsches and whatever else is out there. So the fire trucks could get through to help people. I didn't know because I've been on the blasted phone. I got freaking phished. Phished. I was on the phone half an hour being phished, and I fell for it. If you watch part of my live, you'll see. I kept saying, why would I want to give you this? Why would I want to? And he had an answer for everything. I mean, I said yes to him taking $1,500 out of my account. I said yes to that. People can call me stupid. If you were sitting on the couch like my daughter was, listening and watching, you may fall for it too. I mean, maybe not. The phone number was from my bank. It wasn't some 888. The guy didn't waver in his tone, had words like security. He kept sending me things on my phone. And that's what the banks really do for security reasons. Wait, what? Explain what happened. About the fire or my bank? Well, I got a phone call and it said my bank. I won't say the name of it, but it said my bank. And it's not, some huge bank like Wells Fargo or whatever. We'll put it that way. So I answered it. And they said, yeah, this is so-and-so, your bank. They said it. The guy's voice was kind of Indian sounding, which, a lot of people do telemarketing and do those kinds of things from other countries. Yeah. And this sweater is so dang hot, you guys. I'm just roasting. I need to turn some air on. So then, nice cold air. Okay, so then he goes, did you use your, there's fraud on your account? And I'm like, oh, And this has happened twice before where I've had to get a new card. So I thought it was legit there. And I said, well, when was this? And he said, this morning. And then he said, did you use your card? When was the last time you used your card? And I said, about 5 days ago. And then he said, he said there's a purchase for $640 from eBay. And I'm still believing it. Yeah. And it's just so ridiculous. And I said, what? You know, and then he said, yes. And then he said, they tried to take 100 and something off my card. And I said, where is this? And they said, Pennsylvania. For all I know, he was calling from Pennsylvania for real. And you just got 2 calls like that. It's Rapper. Oh, God. Yeah, they're very good and manipulative and intense. So then they go, well, for each of the transactions of fraud, we're going to verify 2 different numbers. And that's what the bank did, right? You know, I had to say yes to him. But then he started saying, what is your last 4 digits of your card? And I knew they had at least that. And I said, well, why do I want to tell you that? You're the bank, you know that, or something like that. And then he goes, well, is it? And he said it. So then I believed it really was the bank because he said my last 4 digits. But then when I acted like I wasn't going to, and this is where I feel really stupid, he said all the first 4 digits, I think he said, or was it the last 4, are all the same on everybody's card. Yeah, I felt like such a dumbass because I fell for it. And I said, really? Like that? Because I believed it. Well, he had them. And then he had the first 4 digits. And then he had the next 2 numbers. And he stopped after that. And I thought, oh my God, he's about to read my whole card off. This is legitimate. So I'm thinking that again. Then the next thing I know, he's saying, okay, did you get the whatevers? You know, did you get the notifications on? I'm on a flip phone, so I got to hit idle screen and go back and all this. I was on the phone because I asked 10 million questions, 35 minutes with this guy. They're very patient, which sucks. And then he said, what's the zip code? You know, what's your zip code? I told him. What's your state? I told him. He didn't bring up the address, thank God. I would have told him. I probably would have told him. And no, I have a phone that I ordered through Xfinity. It's pretty nice. I mean, it's in a bag. And someday when my, daughter needs a better phone or something if she wants one, because she likes just having a flip phone right now. I've got this brand new one that I can hook up. I mean, it's not bad. What is it? It's a Nokia. I mean, it's brand spanking new. Look at it. And these are all the accessories. But so I could get my percentage off, get my $9.99 that I pay for internet. That's all I have to pay. And it's been like that for years because we're, low income. I had to not hook up another phone at this house with that one. So I just kept the phone. They let me keep the phone. All right. So anyway, he asked me these questions. And then like a dumbass, he asks me, how much money is in your account? And I told him. And then I even said, and he acted okay with it, but like a dummy, I said, should I go get my iPad and tell you the exact amount that's in my account? And he said, yes, please do that or something. So I go do that. I tell him the exact amount. And it's not thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands. But it's a little nest egg, okay, for my future. Because my trust fund was finally consolidated, or I'd have nothing in it. It'd be 0 or 10 cents like it used to be. So, oh yeah, the card is canceled, but this is what happened. So I tell him how much is on there, and then he says, okay, I'm going to be sending you, he spiels this whole thing off, and I literally said, what? Because it was an accent, and it was pure static on the damn phone. And I mean, the whole time. I had the phone out to here. My daughter was looking at me. I'm looking at her. And he kept saying, now don't hang up. We need to finish through all this so we can get you a new card sent to you. Blah, 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 blah. I did. I called the company after, and I mumbled under my breath. He probably heard. I said, Shaylin, I'm calling the bank after this. And so anyway, so then he goes, this is the worst part of it all. He sends this notification thing with all this typing from the bank, looks legit. And he says, before I send this to you, you have to say yes. And I just said, okay, because I thought it was just going to be like saying yes to something. On it, it said, you have, it's okay. This is why I feel so dumb. Saying yes to someone basically using the card to get $1,500, you guys. Now, I fought it. I fought it, and I fought it, and I fought it to the point that my eyes were welling up with tears. Shaylin could tell I was about to cry because I was saying to the guy, I said 2 times, now wait a minute. I talked like this, just so you'd have an idea how smooth they are. I said, now wait a minute. Why would a security thing be calling in with a fictitious, you said you were going to send me a name. This is how I was talking to him. I said, but now you're telling me to say yes to taking $1,500 from my account. And he instantly said, oh, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. That is just security. It's a new security. It's not real. It's not real. Don't worry. Kept saying that over and over again. And I said, well, I am. And I started getting choked up. I even said, I said, last time I had to get a new card, it didn't take this long. It didn't take 30 minutes. Why am I on the phone so long? This is a new security, blah, blah, blah. So it was really stupid. So I tell him that, and I literally, okay, this isn't like for everyone to feel sorry for me. This is how real it was. And I'm almost getting choked up now because I fell for it. I had my head turned and I was wiping the tears under my eyes because I had a feeling I was being scammed. But I was more afraid of not being able to finish the whole thing on the phone, which we were almost done with, and not getting a new card. Okay? Now, so then I said yes like a dumbass to that. So I instantly called the bank. I had to wait a good 20 minutes for someone to pick up. And I'm really glad I did, because sure enough, that nobody had attempted fraud on the card that morning, and that somebody, since that phone call, tried to take $1,500 off twice, and then $900, and then $1,000, and then $990 for transactions. And I literally, my mouth dropped. I looked at my daughter. I was like, I mean, it was really an eye opener, you guys. And it's like, I just saw, and I said this in the beginning of my show, about 4 days ago, I was going through news channels and I came across Seattle, and this guy's going, yes, don't ever give your card information out. You never know, none of them will ever ask you for it. Now, when I got off the phone with this guy and he said, thank you, I didn't even say goodbye. I just sat on the phone stunned and nervous, but assuming I'm going to get my card. Now, I looked up, my daughter said, look up the number, right? Thinking there'd be an 888. I look it up, and there's my bank with the regular town number. So I'm relieved, but I'm still going to call the bank to make sure because I was that sketched out about it. What if I hadn't called? Now, if I hadn't called, he would have kept trying, whatever. They're smart because there was a purchase made in Pennsylvania or tried to be of $60 some for some kind of camera thing. And then another time for a ticket that you can buy to a concert overseas for cheaper. Now, in both of those times, I went into the bank instead of having a card mailed to me. And I was thinking of having my card mailed to me. Luckily, I don't need litter. I don't need anything. I've done all the shopping. But what? You tried to help me one day to teach me, but you blocked me because you said you were scared. So too bad now. Are you talking to someone else? Yeah. Hi, Red. I mean, this has to be you, MK Ultra, but you've never called me Red. She's entertaining now. No? Okay, so they'll drain you. Your bank has protection, so nothing happened. No. I said to the guy, so I need to cut my card up right now. And he said, yeah. So I cut my card. Yeah. And I'm going to go pick up my new card. But this is the third time, you guys, in literally, I'd say a year and a half, I've had to get a new card. And the guy told me it's called phishing. And I said, oh my gosh, it's what I saw in the Seattle news. So don't, anyone calls and does even a fraud thing from your bank number, don't answer it. Don't answer it. Don't answer it. Call the bank yourself. If anything gets across today with helping someone with a bank thing, or you answer the phone, hang up. That's what I'm saying. Hang up. Because all the other ones were legitimate. These people are sly, manipulative, and I'm really quite angry. Because I was downright crying. Like I knew it was a 50-50. I'm going to lose money. Someone's going to try to get money, but I thought, well, I'll get a fraud alert, from my bank and it'll be okay. But it's just going to make my life harder. And I was thinking, why does life just have to be so difficult all the time? It's just unreal. So yeah, I've been on 3 hours. I was on 2 yesterday or 2.5. And I think I had 8 left. So what is that? 3, 4, 5, 6. I have only a couple more on StreamYard, and it's extremely glitchy when I read a book or even talk. And so I wanted it to be clear. That's why I've been doing StreamYard lately. But I'm going to go so I can do StreamYard for like an hour tomorrow on this book. Prayers for everyone fighting the fires. My dad was a fireman in Alaska. Not in his 20s either. I think he was in his 40s. And I didn't know this till he told me. So, Parker, I'm ending my live, please. I'm ending my live. Knock it off. All you ask is for food every time I'm on a live. Something's going to change. I don't know what. It's going to change. All right. Love you guys. This is PCT is Extreme. Please hit the like if you've forgotten and subscribe to me if you're willing to. I'm only like 17 or so away from 3,000. So if there's any of you that can help me out there, I'm going to have some kind of celebration when I reach that goal, and then I'll make a different goal. Thanks for coming in here. Thanks for stopping by, MK Ultra. If that is indeed you, I'm pretty darn sure it is. Thanks everyone else, Redheaded Storm. Hello to any names I've missed in here. Thank you so much for hanging out this long and stopping by every evening like you do. Stay safe in California and anywhere else you are. Bye for now. Bye-bye.